news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Monday, September 26. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 12 degrees, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Federal ministers say all COVID-19 border restrictions will end on Saturday. With the details, here's City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
After a week or so of leaks and reports in the media, Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos makes it official. They're letting the ordering council that brought about these COVID restrictions expire.
And will therefore remove all COVID-19 border requirements for all travellers entering Canada. This includes the removal of all federal testing, quarantine and isolation requirements, as well as a mandatory submission of health information in ArriveCan.
So to recap, travel will be returning to a pre-pandemic normal when it comes to federal policies. Mandatory use of the ArriveCan app, mask mandates, proof of vaccination, pre- and on-arrival testing, and COVID quarantine measures are all being dropped effective this Saturday, October 1st. The government says vaccination rates and overall COVID situation has led us to this point where these measures can be dropped. Stay tuned for more information as it comes. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time 9:01. Now your forecast. Here's meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A seasonal day for us. Some showers, thunderstorms at times. The high about 17 degrees. Periods of light rain tonight near 11. And tomorrow, more showers in the morning than a steady light rain for the afternoon. A high about 16. We're off to a wet start this week. For today, the high 17.
And right now it's 12 degrees in both Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. The Prime Minister met with Hydro Ottawa crews who are leaving today to join the effort to restore power in Atlantic Canada. Hundreds of thousands still without after post-tropical storm Fiona ripped through that portion of the country over the weekend. Here's City News reporter Jamie Pulfer with the latest on the aftermath.
Like a monster in the darkness, Fiona roared into Atlantic Canada early Saturday as one of the most powerful storms on record. Multiple buildings washed into the ocean. RCMP in Port aux Basques, Newfoundland, have recovered the body of a 73-year-old woman who was swept into the Atlantic after a massive wave struck her home. In Prince Edward Island, another confirmed death. The details are vague, with officials only saying this.
Undetermined at this point what the cause is, but it's kind of preliminary, pointing toward generator use.
So at this point, hundreds of thousands of people are still without power, with the majority in Nova Scotia. The mayor of Cape Breton with this concern.
Right now, I'm hearing from a lot of people that, you know what, my supplies are getting low. What are we going to do? Because we know most of our stores here, they don't have power.
Members of the Canadian Armed Forces have been called in to help across the Maritimes. Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair says the immediate need is to provide food and shelter for anyone displaced by Fiona, and that's why the federal government is currently matching donations to the Canadian Red Cross. Jamie Pulfer, City News.
So Atlantic Canada, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. Now the next hurricane that is causing problems is Ian. It's building over the Gulf of Mexico, expected to become a major hurricane by tonight. ABC senior meteorologist Rob Marciano says Florida officials have closed some schools already. Public shelters have opened ahead of tonight.
People have been preparing all weekend long. They've been buying supplies, water, plywood, food, of course, and filling sandbags. For the most part, it's been pretty orderly, but I sense there'll be a little bit more in the way of urgency today.
The U.S. National Hurricane Center says Ian should reach far western Cuba a little bit later today. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It is unnerving when you can't get in touch with your parents because a hurricane has knocked out all cell phone service, all internet service, and even old-fashioned landline telephone service. And let me tell you, that made for a long weekend. But we finally managed to get in touch with our families yesterday afternoon on both Cape Breton Island and Prince Edward Island, and everyone is fine, although they don't expect power restored until Wednesday at the earliest, and they are the lucky ones. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. Thanks for spending some of your day with us. We always appreciate it. Coming up, very busy program ahead. We are on the storm watch, covering the aftermath of Fiona. Dan Ahlstrand, one of our City News colleagues in Halifax. He's the news director at City News 95.7 Halifax. He was with us before the storm, and he'll join us momentarily. Give us an update on the recovery effort. Like nothing we've seen before. Like nothing we've seen before. That's what we heard from our family members over the weekend. Like nothing we've seen before. And also on the aftermath, Prime Minister Trudeau's having a news conference here in Ottawa this morning at the Press Theatre, scheduled to happen at 11:30. We'll bring some of that to you when it begins. Sometimes these things start on time. Quite often, they don't. As you heard from Andrew, Prime Minister was up early this morning. 6 o'clock meet and greet with some of the Ottawa area hydro workers who are now off to Atlantic Canada to also help with the recovery effort. But again, Prime Minister's news conference, 11:30 this morning. Remember, he was supposed to be heading to Japan for the state funeral of the former Japanese leader Shinzo Abe. He was assassinated. We learned over the weekend Mr. Trudeau canceled that trip, and he'll be staying in the country to focus on the storm recovery. He'll also appear in question period this afternoon in the House of Commons. Now, also, on our show this morning, we're going to talk about public education in the province of Ontario. Strike votes continue for 55,000 education workers. They're not teachers. They do just about every other kind of job in public education. They're all members of CUPE, Canadian Union Public Employees, and they're without a contract. And last we heard, as the old saying goes, the two sides remain far apart. I mean, far, far apart. They can't even see each other. The union's first wage demand increase was for raises of 11.7% a year. A year. So well in excess of even this elevated inflation rate. The Ford government, the employer, countered with wage increases of between 1.25% and 2% a year, depending on how much the worker earns in a given year. So that would be well below the inflation rate. The last reading on inflation was 7%, right? The education minister, Mr. Lecce, insists these education unions want to go on strike. End of story. They've been priming for a strike. They don't like us. They wanted to go on strike even before the collective bargaining process began, before the first offer was ever tabled. CUPE is just one of 5 major education unions. They all need new contracts. And the government would love it if the CUPE deal, if there is a such thing eventually as a CUPE deal, that'll be the template for all the other unions. Well, CUPE accepted this. It has to be good enough for you too. So voting on a strike will wrap up this weekend. And CUPE has called the government's offer insulting. What's ahead for public education? After 2 years of COVID disruption, and there was labor strife before that. Laura Walton is in the middle of it all. CUPE's Ontario School Board Council of Unions president. My guest right after the 9:30 news. Also on the show this morning, lots of talk about the municipal election campaign. Barry McLoughlin from Transformational Leadership Consultants will join us. We'll talk about the municipal race, the election for a new mayor, and for a new city council, now less than a month away. And our municipal panelists will assemble right after the 11 o'clock news. And we'll talk about who's winning this thing and why they're winning this thing. The latest poll puts Councillor McKenney way ahead of challengers Mark Sutcliffe and Bob Chiarelli. It was a Main Street poll out several weeks ago now. It gave the Somerset Ward councillor a significant double-digit lead of some 14 points. That's in the mayor's race. We're not only going to talk about the mayor's race, we'll be talking about running for a council seat in one of the wards. Lots of competitive races in the wards, where typically a candidate has, a grand total of somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 to spend on an election campaign. Depends on the size of the ward, how many eligible voters are in the ward. $20,000, $30,000. How do you get the most bang for the election campaign buck? For example, do election signs really work? I think that's a great question. Election signs. Do they really work? Do you pay attention to it? David is back from salmon fishing. Welcome back, David.
Thank you. Good to be here.
See any election signs out there in Whistler? Is there an election underway in Whistler?
There are actually election signs in Whistler. No, seriously, right along the Sea to Sky Highway, all over the place.
Just visual pollution. Election signs. But they must work. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting ornery as the years go by, but election signs are just visible pollution to me. I just don't pay them any attention anymore. But I've never run for office, so what do I know? I mean, the smarter people than me say they work. Or why else would candidates spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on them? There are candidates still releasing part of their election platforms with only 28 days to go. Hey, here's my plan for the environment. Here's my plan for recreation fees. Here's my plan for French language services. And that's just in the last 24 hours. Do people even read these plans? Or is it all about who has the best signs? I don't care what this person is doing with recreation programs. They have better signs. They have more signs. Municipal Monday election panel will assemble right after the 11 o'clock news. It's always a great conversation with Walter and Maria. Walter Robinson, Maria McRae. What else? Oh, Money Monday with Peter Fraser, certified financial planner. Well, David, that was a dumb move by me. You know what I did last week? I put my entire vast portfolio into British pounds.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's all gone now.
All gone.
Yep. This is wild stuff. The British pound fell to its lowest level ever versus the U.S. dollar earlier this morning. It has recovered somewhat since then. Some are calling it a currency collapse. You just love to hear about. It's all about tax cuts in the UK versus interest rate hikes because there's a new prime minister. Here's what's going on here. You have a new prime minister in the UK, right? Boris is out, Liz is in. And Charles is the king. Liz Truss is leading a very unpopular conservative government because of the cost of living crisis, because of high energy costs. So to try and improve her party's miserable polling numbers, she's cutting taxes. One problem. Experts say that is going to stimulate the economy at a time when the Bank of England, like all the other central banks, are trying to fight inflation by doing what? Raising interest.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by Raven Reads. Unbox Indigenous voices. Subscribe today at ravenreads.org.
What are we doing about COVID? Seems like the communications have been all about how everything's opening up, and yet here in Ottawa we're experiencing our 7th wave, so a bit of a contradiction there.
Your visit isn't really necessary.
I'll judge for myself.
I know you're an MP, Miss McPhail, but a woman has never...
I am not leaving till I do. How can such a society be called civilized? If those appalling conditions don't change, that prison will explode!
Perhaps our lone lady member is too fragile to know what is normal in a prison.
Is this normal?
Her courage would lead to the overhaul of the entire Canadian penal system. Agnes McPhail, Canada's first woman MP.
Hi, I'm Sahai from The Wiggles, and this is my new book, Something in Common. Join me on an adventure as a camp counsellor helping some amazing children make friends and share what family means to them. I wrote this book with my friends at Children's Aid Foundation of Canada to help children who might feel lonely or like they don't belong. Not everyone has the same type of family, but we all have something in common. Download Something in Common for free.
We're in infinity. Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Is it 750-1310 on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Putting the focus on smaller businesses and less larger sized businesses, as it's very different for people like me that are like literal small business owners, where we've bootstrapped money and we don't have a lot of funding, and to be able to help us through that. There has been some help for us, but I think it would be a greater opportunity to see us thrive through the next couple of years.
$20. Hi, I'm Maggie. Come into my kitchen. When you're using salt in a recipe, check for saltiness. Not all salts are equal. A fine grain salt is a lot more salty than a large grain salt because that takes longer to get into the food. Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20.
The houseless crisis, because it really is a crisis down here on Rideau Street. There is not enough shelters for men especially, and we need to be helping our most vulnerable.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
With coverage of the aftermath of Fiona. Joining us from City News, Halifax, 95.7 in Halifax, News Director Dan Ahlstrand is back with us on the Rob Snow Show on City News. Good morning.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
You made it through.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
Our whole team in Halifax is, I think most of us have got our power back now, so we're fortunate, much more fortunate than others. The last time I checked, I think there's still about 187,000 Nova Scotia Power customers that don't have their power back. Majority of those, of course, up in the Cape Breton area. I know you're familiar with that part of the world. Yeah. And it really took a pretty significant hit, as did Prince Edward Island, which is something that we really, a lot of people weren't talking about before the storm happened. Was, it was kind of the landfall was going to be in Nova Scotia, but it blew right through and impacted, I think, like 95% of the island lost power. So, and of course, we've all seen the pictures from Port aux Basques over in Newfoundland with the devastation there. So, long way to go. We're getting there, but still a long way to go before we're completely cleaned up from this storm.
So what are local officials saying about the priorities right now? What are the priorities right now?
Well, getting the power back. The Premier is was pretty emphatic about getting the power back to people, but we had a briefing yesterday afternoon from Nova Scotia Power's storm lead, who said that particularly in the eastern portions of the province, for those of your listeners, Rob, that aren't familiar with Nova Scotia, we kind of go west to east, and from kind of Halifax east towards Cape Breton Island into the edges of HRM, the Halifax Regional Municipality, and in Guysborough County and Port Hawkesbury and Pictou County and those areas, and then, of course, Cape Breton Island, hundreds of utility poles went down in the storm, according to Nova Scotia Power. So it takes a while to get the poles in the ground, I'm told. So they're in the process of doing that. They brought crews in from all over the place. There's crews, I understand, coming from Ottawa to help us here. There's other crews from Ontario. We've got spare crews from Atlantic Canada and even some from the United States. There's about 1,000 people on the ground right now here in Nova Scotia trying to put the lights back on. Also keeping major thoroughfares open. Halifax, there was a number of trees down and the regular, I hate to say regular storm damage, but the regular hurricane damage we see, that's getting cleaned up now. They've got the major routes open in the city, but police are still warning residents to be on the lookout, trying to get people to stay off the roads so that we can get those power crews to where they need to get to, and the emergency services, obviously, so they're not impacted. I can tell you a funny story, Rob.
Yeah.
Out front of the radio station here, there's a Tim Hortons location. It's on a pretty major intersection here in Halifax, and during the height of the storm, it retained power. And there was a lineup of cars here. I'm looking at it right now. It's starting again, but there was a line of cars here that went about 10 blocks.
Wow.
Of people trying to get into Tim Hortons to get, some coffee or something to eat.
Right.
But it's starting to back off now, obviously, as more electricity is restored in other places, like grocery stores, and those are getting back online. But it was a sight to see those people lined up for, it would have been hours just to get in to get a hot cup of coffee.
As for the damage, I mean, it's the wind damage, it seems, Dan, that's much more devastating as opposed to flooding. Is that accurate enough?
It is.
Yeah.
Particularly in Nova Scotia and in PEI, there was some storm surge and some coastal erosion and those kind of things. Obviously, the pictures we saw from Port aux Basques, that was water that had rose up over the banks and pulled those houses into the ocean. But here it's been mostly, from what I understand, it's been mostly wind damage. We had gusts up to 165 kilometers an hour. In Halifax, we saw one at the airport at 125 kilometers an hour. But they were much worse as you got further east towards Cape Breton Island. The eye came across literally right and I know you're familiar with it, right in the Kansas Causeway. So the right-hand side of the cyclone, which is Cape Breton Island, would have received the highest winds, and we got rain. Preliminary estimates here, about 125 millimeters. Places closer up towards Pictou County, 150. Some places in Cape Breton Island unofficially reporting 200 millimeters of rain in, I don't know what it was, 7 hours. So lots of backed up drains, lots of flooded basements because of that rain. But the infrastructure damage mostly is based on the wind.
When do you expect to see members of the Canadian Armed Forces arrive in the region?
Already here.
Oh, they're already there. Okay.
There are already some here. I would imagine that they're drawing members of the military from Nova Scotia first. Obviously, there's a number of military bases here, Air Force bases and Army bases. Gagetown up in north of Fredericton will be drawing people here. But as I understand it, the advanced elements of the military are on the ground. I know that they're in Newfoundland, in Port aux Basques, and I would assume that we'll start to see more and more. I don't know if we'll see them here in Halifax as much as we'll see them in where the damage is much more severe.
Okay, but again, another priority is people just can't help themselves. They're curious. They want to go out. They want to see the damage for themselves. Kind of like a disaster tourists, gawkers.
Gawkers.
And and that's one of the problems. Police want those people to stay off the road.
Well, even in Cape Breton Island, in those areas, that area is under a state of emergency, and they expect that it's going to be under a state of emergency for 7 days. We're not in Halifax, and as you go further west along Nova Scotia, the damage was much less severe. But yes, there are people. Like yesterday afternoon, I was taking a walk around my neighborhood, and it felt like rush hour. Wow. There were that many vehicles on the road. I don't know where everybody was going because there wasn't a whole lot of stuff open.
Right.
But it felt like rush hour. When we left the radio station here on Saturday after our broadcast, it was Saturday. I didn't get out of here till supper time, I guess. And it felt like going home on a Friday at 5 o'clock, right? So compounding the problem with the traffic is that a lot of the intersections, the traffic lights are out because of the electricity problems. So four-way stops, people are confused. It's just creating all kinds of issues. So we had a conversation with Halifax Regional Police earlier this morning, who are urging anybody that doesn't have to be on the road to kind of stay off, so that we can, they can concentrate on getting things back to normal instead of dealing with fender benders and those kind of things.
Okay. So look, some people are going to be without power till Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even longer. What's the weather like? I mean, is it cold?
Or today, we had a big thunderstorm cell, which for anybody that's been in Nova Scotia will know is a rare event to get a thunderstorm, much like you guys get in your part of the world. It thunder and lightning, and it poured rain. There was localized flooding this morning, which doesn't help. Yesterday was a beautiful day here. We had sunshine and such, but the forecast is looking kind of gray and wet for the next few days, which doesn't help things a lot when people are trying to clean up their yards and deal with down trees and limbs and getting that stuff carted away and getting back to a semblance of normalcy here.
Okay. Thanks for the update. Stay well. Yeah. Bye-bye. Yep. Dan Ahlstrand, City News, 95.7, Halifax, Nova Scotia. This is the Rob Snow Show. This is Ottawa. And this is City News.
We're in infinity. Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired. and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m., it's the Rtv Quiz. Giovanni Petiti hosts a weekly trivia competition that lets you play from the comfort of your couch. Play along at home and challenge your friends. And don't forget to follow along on social media. Let us know who's top of trivia, and you can find yourself featured on a future episode.
Are you kidding me, folks?
The Rtv Quiz, Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. on Rogers TV or at rogerstv.com/RTV Quiz.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Monday, September 26. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 12 degrees, and here's what's making news this hour. All border restrictions dealing with COVID are being lifted as of Saturday. That means mandatory vaccine proof to get into the country, random testing for the virus at airports, masking on planes and trains, all gone on October 1st. The cabinet order, which brought all the measures into place, will expire on Saturday, and they're not being renewed at the federal level. Those who are unvaccinated and returning to Canada will no longer have to isolate. The Arrive Can app is not required anymore, but you can still use it if you wish for things like customs and immigration declaration. All adults in Ontario can now book an appointment to receive an Omicron-targeted COVID-19 vaccine as of today. The province made the bivalent vaccine available to the most vulnerable population earlier on this month, but said appointments to receive the new shot would be open to everyone 18 years of age and older, beginning today. The Prime Minister among those greeting Hydro Ottawa workers as they set off for Atlantic Canada. While some crews left yesterday to head east, others are leaving today. In all, 15 line crews are being sent to Atlantic Canada to help the effort to restore power to tens of thousands in 4 provinces that had power interrupted by the fierce storm Fiona over the weekend. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News
1011 FM
and 1310 AM.
As promised, let's focus the attention on the situation in Ontario schools, public education system, with the president of CUPE, Ontario School Board Council of Unions, Laura Walton, back with us here on the Rob Snow Show on City News. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good. It's nice to hear from you.
Good to hear from you.
Can you give us an update, please, on what will happen this week with strike votes for your 55,000 members who work in the public education system in Ontario?
Sure. So what will be taking place this week is that the workers across Ontario, those EAs, custodians, ECEs, secretaries, IT, etc., will have an opportunity to use, their right and their voice about what they would like to see happen next. So they're going to be going to the polls. It's an electronic vote. It's open until this Sunday. And from there, it'll determine what the next steps are going to be.
Okay. What are the possibilities? What are the options for next steps?
Well, I hope that when the government and the school boards see the amount of workers who are coming in, we're already seeing unprecedented numbers. When they see how many workers are committed to fighting for students and for themselves and for their families, I'm hoping that will give the push to the government and to the school boards to get to the table and start negotiating. We spent 2 days last week that were just completely frustrating, where we said, hey, listen, we know that you don't want to talk about the big ticket items right now. Can we talk about a few of these little pieces? We couldn't even get them to move on those. And then, on Friday, the minister turns around and puts out even more money directly to payments for parents, which will not actually improve the services in our school. Having a DECE in every classroom, for instance, would only cost $30 million, and that's a tenth of what is going to be going out in checks to parents.
Okay. I want to focus on a few things that the Minister of Education has said, given just where things stand right now. He has said that what you have proposed, $3.25 an hour for all workers, roughly 11.7% a year, an end to wage grids, putting all workers at the top rate of pay. You add it all up, it's a 50% raise. What do you think of that? You want a 50% raise?
So I always find it very interesting because what he has done is used highest common numbers rather than looking at it piece by piece. And we actually did a piece, and I'd be happy to send it to you, where, we have proven that the math is just not correct. What we're looking for is $3.25 per hour for every worker in the province of Ontario. And, as far as moving to the top grid, because of the retention and recruitment problems, there isn't a whole lot of people to move through the grid right now. We simply don't have people coming into the jobs. So he's, really kind of exaggerating these numbers to do a little bit of fear mongering. But really what's interesting is the $3.25 an hour, Rob, is less than what he is spending in those checks to payments in just 1 year.
Okay. He also has said, if we give CUPE what it wants, then that's going to become the floor in every other education negotiation. And that, they're all told there are 5 unions to deal with.
Yeah.
And that all told that would cost $21 billion just for public education.
So if he goes with a percentage increase,
okay,
we're asking for a flat rate.
Okay.
And, for years, the lowest paid workers have had to accept percentage increases that were accepted by the highest wage earners. And it meant a huge disparity in wages. What somebody who makes $39,000 a year gets on a 1% raise looks much different than what somebody who makes $75,000 a year makes. So what we're saying is we want a flat rate. He is determined to put it into a percentage and then say, well, if I give someone $39,000 and I give them 11%, then I've got to give 11% to somebody who makes, $90,000. Our question is why? Why can't you just do the flat rate for us, the flat rate for them? But I also want to just confirm something.
Okay.
Fair doesn't mean that everyone gets the same thing. Fair means that you address the individual needs as they stand. And that's one of the pieces that we really think is important, is that the issues facing education workers, those people who have been on site in the schools throughout the pandemic, is vastly different than other workers in the education system. And it's time for the minister to stop with the cookie cutter bargaining and actually get down and say, what do we need to ensure that the most qualified professionals are in place for our kids and we maintain a proper, publicly funded, publicly delivered education system in Ontario.
Okay. Mr. Lecce has also described the benefits that your members receive as very generous. You have a generous pension, generous benefits package, sick leave, long-term disability program, 11 sick days at full pay. The short-term disability is 120 days at 90% pay. A lot of workers don't get those kinds of benefits. How accurate is it to say that those are very generous benefits that your union already has?
So some of those benefits exist, and they have been negotiated long predating me, Rob.
Okay.
But I would also say LTD, that's not actually a provided benefit. As a matter of fact, as a worker myself, I pay for my LTD. It is not paid for by the province or the school board. As far as things like my pension, the owner's pension is not as rich as what I think other pensions are. As a matter of fact, I think I currently, if I was to retire, would have about $500 a month. What he forgets is that a pension is only a contribution based on what you earn. And when you only make $39,000 a year, our pensions are looking at about $22,000 if we retire at 65 or older. It is not as rich as what he would like to promote. And once again, he's trying to put everybody into the same basket.
I know
and confuse.
Laura, your union uses this figure $39,000 a year, but I mean, how fair is it to lump in, say, part-time education workers with full-time education workers. They all happen to be members of CUPE, and you punch out this number, $39,000 a year. I mean, full-time custodians and administration staff, early childhood are they making $39,000 a year? Administration staff in a school full-time making $39,000 a year? I don't think so. No way. Come on.
I could tell you if I was working right now currently as an EA, the EAs in my board at 20 years service are actually making $36,000 a year.
Really?
Full-time.
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 Okay.
And this is 20 hours. This is 20 years in top. You know, like they've been there for a significant amount of time. But what we also need to recognize is that the majority of people would like to work full-time hours,
right,
but the funding has been cut so much that those full-time jobs are not there.
What do you think? How would you describe the government's offer? It's workers who earn less than $40,000 a year, 2% raise each year over the next 4 years. Those below, above $40,000 a year, 1.25% annual increase. Your reaction to that, please?
Our reaction to that is it's disrespectful. It's less than a tank of gas a month. And at a time where these workers have already paid, their time under Bill 124 and the 1% wage increase, and then we're going to say, here's less than a tank of gas a month for you. There are recruitment and retention issues. And when I, say that, I don't say that because the union is saying there's recruitment and retention issues. That's the school board saying that there's recruitment and retention issues. And the way you deal with recruitment and retention issues is by paying a fair wage and offering proper working conditions. The minister is not interested in that. And yet just this past weekend, I saw the president of the Ontario Public School Board Association really calling out the minister and saying the money that you're just handing out and nobody knows how it's going to be handed out would be better served by giving it to individual school boards and letting them hire staff, paying the staff properly. And so when you hear that you aren't worth more than a tank of gas a week, but here let's hand out checks with absolutely no parameters and no details, it just shows, really, is this government working for kids? Is this government working for families? Is this government working for workers? Or are they working for their friends in the private industry through tutoring programs?
So the strike votes will conclude on Sunday. What happens Monday?
So Monday we will make an announcement with the strike vote results.
Okay.
And then that evening we're going to be hosting a meeting with our membership and hearing from them. What do they want us to do? Where do they want us to head? Because at the end of the day, these are parents as well, and they need to have a voice. This isn't just about the 10 people at a bargaining table. This is about over 55,000 members fighting for what they know needs to happen in our schools.
What's your message for parents who may be worried after 2 years of COVID disruption? There was labor disruption before that they just can't deal with more labor disruption. What's your message for parents?
My message for parents is, as a parent myself, and the last 2 years have been absolutely horrendous. And we know that this government did not protect our kids and did not provide services for our kids. That's why they need to catch up now. And we are fighting so that we no longer have to play catch-up game. We should always have what's available and what our kids need, what my kids, what your kids, what they need from the very beginning. We shouldn't have to fight in order to ensure that our kids get the services that we need. But we're going to, because we know that there's no other way that this government understands.
Okay. Thank you, Laura Walton. Good to hear from you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, bye-bye. President, CUPE, Ontario School Board, Council of Unions. Again, strike vote happens it's happening now until Sunday. And there'll be some kind of news on Monday. 9:44, Monday of next week. 9:44, back with Barry McLoughlin. We'll talk about the storm aftermath. Emergency crisis communications. Barry's an expert on that. The municipal election campaign, he's up to his eyeballs in that. And what do you think of Polyev? And Kenny is the end of Jason Kenney's political career as well. What a flame out that was. Rob Snow Show. This is City News.
You like what you see. Hi guys, my name is Vi and I'm a part of Encore Ottawa 3. My set at the Meridian Theatre is coming out this week and I hope you tune in.
It's been 2 years later, you're still...
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by local authors for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Flooding is causing widespread devastation in Pakistan. More than 1,000 people have died. 1/3 of the country is underwater, and 6 million people are in need of emergency assistance. The humanitarian coalition is responding to the crisis in Pakistan. You can help. Donate today at together.ca, and your donation will be matched by the Canadian government. That's together.ca, the humanitarian coalition. Together, saving more lives.
You see a lot of these luxury rental apartments that are coming out, and if you're a single person, it makes it extremely challenging to afford just basic lifestyle needs.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Barry McLoughlin is back with us, Transformational Leadership Consultant, President, our expert in corporate communications, crisis communications, political communications, and he also has family on Cape Breton Island. How are you, Barry McLoughlin? Good morning.
I'm doing fine, Rob. Good morning.
Good. So, what's the latest from your kin?
Yeah, it'd be more my in-laws' kin there. Yeah. Well, obviously they got hit very badly, massively, as a matter of fact. And they're safe, thank goodness. I think that, this was very interesting to me because we knew it was heading for Cape Breton. This wasn't one where, we don't know where landfall is exactly. It was pretty close. Port Hawkesbury into Cape Breton, and it really hit hard. And of course, the PEI was hit, as was said already, even more than people expected, but certainly very strongly. Yeah. So it got the worst of it. And I think that I love the attitude in Cape Breton. They're going to get back on track and do all they can to pull together and to overcome this. The real issues always on these are: could you have done anything in advance? Yes. 1 ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure and all. Mm-hmm. And we're getting lots of cure. I think the issues become a little bit focused afterwards. It'd probably be a lessons learned exercise.
Sure.
Could they have done anything more in advance? That's just always what you have to look for. Yeah. I was kind of surprised at the mayor of the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, who really spent the storm in Grace Bay at her home. and was out of commission because of the wavering internet. She couldn't join the media conference on Saturday. Mike Savage had to read her statement. That concerns me. There is, supposedly an emergency operations center.
Yeah.
I've been in the mayor's office downtown in Sydney. It's well situated. I'm not sure why the decision was taken to be out there, blocked off by roads and everything else.
Well, see, what I couldn't understand, let me just jump right in there, because I was giving them holy heck on Twitter over the weekend about this, I was talking to my stepmother, and she said, and this is mere hours before we know that this storm is going to hit. And nobody in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, which is the industrial area of Cape Breton, the populated area of Cape Breton Island, Sydney, Glace Bay, New Waterford, all of these towns, they still didn't know where the respite center was or the comfort center. Nobody had sent that information out from the municipality. You go to the municipality's website, and the last thing on the website is, here's where to sign the Book of Condolence for the Queen.
Yeah.
All of that information should be there. This is where to go. This is what we're planning. Not even a warning. Don't go out on the streets. Here's what you do with live wires. None of that stuff. With this epic storm headed toward the region, I thought that was a major communications failure myself.
Yeah, I must admit that was really a puzzle to me. Even Nova Scotia Power, they did open after the storm hit. They opened a satellite operations center in Sydney. Well, knowing it's heading towards there, knowing that hydro is key to almost everything, including cell phones and everything else, why there wasn't a satellite center put up, a satellite one right there in advance, I don't understand that. So there were a number of things here that it's all reactive, not proactive. And I think that is a concern. Apparently there was a place, Center 200 in Sydney, that you could, have sleeping bags, you could do that. No, I didn't hear much.
Announced the next day.
So again, the advance work on this. I remember being in New England, and a hurricane was coming to Cape Cod. They opened the high school gymnasiums. They had the cots set up. FEMA was involved. They were on the ground. Yeah. People came there in advance. When you live in housing right up near the water, some of it quite flimsy, old, you are in a very dangerous situation, and you might not be reached for 72 hours if roads are blocked and so on. You don't really want, if they're elderly, you don't want those people stuck out there. You want them where you can provide the resources, the food and everything for them. That's a lesson learned, not a blame. That kind of reminds me of the mayor of New Orleans when Katrina hit. He decided to park himself at the top of a high-rise tower 28 stories up, and everybody wanting to meet the mayor had to go up 28 flights of stairs every time, go up and down. There's a lesson for you. Right. You got to be accessible.
Okay. Yeah, very, very good analysis. Let's move along to the municipal election campaign. Less than a month to go now. Some of the accusations often thrown at Mark Sutcliffe is that he's a vote for the status quo, or he's a Watson clone. If you like Watson, you like him. Or he's the candidate of business, which is he's the candidate of business. What do you think of those portrayals of Mark Sutcliffe?
I think that's a lot of that kind of Twitter action, a lot of people trying to fan the flames of that. That's completely untrue. I think actually Mark is the alternative to the status quo.
How so?
Well, in a number of ways. He has determined that on the theme of reliability, to really fix that LRT mess, to absolutely revamp it, and the workings of OC Transpo, which is stuck in a mindset or in a patterning of routes that is no longer relevant today. That's profound. He wants to not only fix the roads, sidewalks, and bike paths, but he's not going to spend literally $250 million on bike paths. That's not the right way to fix. When you call it balanced, that's an important word, because it's all modes of transportation that need significant ongoing investment and focus. And I think the other major thing is he's not playing one part of the city off against another, downtown versus the rest. He really wants to be the mayor for all of the city, and I think that his policies are showing that. and keeping in mind that people are worried about affordability. He's promised, he's only going to promise 100,000 homes, cleaning up the backlog, hiring 20 urban planners to streamline the processes that are being backed up very expensively, and houses are not getting built at the pace they need to be. So there's lots of differences. And, you have to really consider that he is the only candidate that doesn't have 25 to 35 years as a politician or working for politicians. I mean, take Catherine McKenney. I mean, she goes right back. They go right back to, Diane Holmes working Alex Munter at Broadband, on and on and on. There's a long history there, and the Horizons Ottawa is backing an NDP slate. And I think the concern here is division. Are we going to get the NDP-backed policies for all of these issues? We're already starting to see that. And I think that would cause profound disruption of a negative kind in a city under their leadership. So I think Mark really does present a profound alternative, a change that will make it better.
Okay, moving to federal politics very quickly here. Pierre Poilievre has been the leader of the official opposition for a few weeks now. Your impressions so far?
He's doing very well, of course, in the House of Commons. You see that. I mean, I said to you last Monday, you watched. The moment he brings up economy, they're going to hit him with crypto. And
they did.
They did, over and over. That's a bit of a water off duck's back. I think that he was able to show a strong hand on that, and I think people expected this of him. He's decided, he hasn't really played nice with the media, and I guess they haven't played that nice with him. And that played out in that famous news conference. I think that's an area that he has to think a little more carefully about. You don't need to make the media your enemy. Yes, they'll criticize you, but you're the prime minister in waiting. You're the one. They're going to really turn attention on him. He's got to show he can take it. He can take it in a high road way and keep us focused. So I think, of course, the jury is out, but he's up strongly in the polls. He's still ahead in the polls, and that's post-leadership vote. So I think that really he's had a pretty solid launch.
Interesting. Okay. Let's think about how other politicians have fared during COVID. John Horgan won an election. Scott Moe won an election. Doug Ford won an election. Prime Minister Trudeau won an election. There was an upset in Nova Scotia, really skilled campaign by Houston, but there was an election in Newfoundland. The Liberals were re-elected in Newfoundland. Jason Kenney couldn't manage it, and will go down as a one-term premier. I thought he'd be premier for a lot longer than that when he was first elected. What do you think happened there?
Well, I think a couple of things happened. I think the United Conservative Party is always a kind of a split kind of party, trying to hold together, and I think that proved to be not really that workable. Secondly, I think people were disappointed in his handling of COVID. He was out front. He pulled the plug on prematurely. You're going to have the greatest summer ever.
Yes.
Boy, that was a disaster. That kind of stuck in people's mind. He's trying to play that dance. Of course, is difficult. But Alberta, you got to in effect have a straight arm against the federal government without attacking them all the time. He tried to find I don't think he found the balance there. So I think all in all, it was a disappointment to people. The old rule of exceeding expectations, but he did not live up to expectations, because Jason was a very solid cabinet minister under Stephen Harper, very, very strong. And so it's different being a premier. Boy, is it ever. And I think that it just wasn't the right fit for him, and it certainly wasn't the right time.
Barry, great stuff this morning. Really insightful. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, Barry McLoughlin, Transformational Leadership Consultants, fellow of the Masters of Political Management program, Carleton University, and in the MBA program, Cape Breton University Shannon School of Business. Talkback Hour up next. Rob Snow Show, City News.
I need to know that my voice matters and feel like my opinion is going to have an impact on our society and our youth.
I would like to see politicians and government overall, especially locals, start to support local business more. Because we've had so many businesses that have shut down, and I would like to see local business grow and politicians give more, whether that's a financial contribution or some other layer of support, but something to encourage them to keep business going.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Join me next time on Simply Cooking by Chef, where I'm going to show you how to make a traditional pizza and even a gluten-free one, all from scratch.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Monday, September 26. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 13 degrees. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. All of Canada's remaining COVID travel measures are being dropped as of this coming Saturday. The federal government announcing it's letting all of the measures that they put in place expire on the date that they had set. That was September 30th. City News Parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney now with the details.
The current remaining restrictions were due to expire on Friday, and the Trudeau government says it is not renewing the measures. That means the final proof of vaccination requirement, mask mandates for planes and trains, testing and quarantine measures, and mandatory use of the ArriveCan app are all gone beginning October 1st. The government and health officials warn COVID is not over yet, but Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos defends the choice to get rid of these measures now instead of after a projected fall wave, saying the imports of cases at this point is minor.
What explains COVID-19 now and what will explain COVID-19 in the next few weeks is the domestic situation. That's where we need to focus our efforts.
While mask mandates are being dropped, the feds strongly encourage travelers to wear a face mask. Use of the ArriveCan app will be done for COVID purposes, but the app is staying put as an optional digital way for people to quickly clear through customs. The Conservatives have been calling for an end to these COVID measures since last year. The feds say they still have the option to bring restrictions back if needed. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Now, the effort to keep people from getting COVID in the first place is ramped up today. In Ontario, anyone age 18 or older now eligible for the Omicron-targeted booster shot of vaccine. But it would seem the interest level, it's waning. Here's City News reporter Carl Hansky.
When I asked commuters if they are going to book an appointment to get their Omicron-specific booster shot, now that all Ontario residents 18 years and older can do so, very few say they will do so right away.
I think I'm going to get it. I'm going to wait a little bit, especially because I had COVID last month.
In fact, I would put most people in the maybe category.
Waiting and seeing.
Hold off for now.
Hold off for a bit.
With a few definite no's.
No thanks. I don't need it. I'm young enough. My immune system will fight it off.
You can find all the ways to book an appointment on our City News website. Also today, Pfizer's new pediatric vaccine for children 6 months to 5 years old is now available. Carl Hansky, City News.
City News time, 10:03. And now your forecast. Here's meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A seasonal day for us. Some showers, thunderstorms at times. The high about 17 degrees. Periods of light rain tonight near 11. And tomorrow, more showers in the morning, then a steady light rain for the afternoon. A high about 16. We're off to a wet start this week. For today, the high 17.
And right now, 13 degrees in both Ottawa and Smiths Falls. Residents of Atlantic Canada and eastern Quebec coming to terms with the full scope of the damage that was left behind by post-tropical storm Fiona. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces now deployed to help with the recovery effort. About 100 troops apiece were either in place or en route to Newfoundland, Nova Scotia and PEI, providing assistance and cleanup. Federal government matching donations as well to the Canadian Red Cross to help in relief efforts. Now hundreds of thousands in Atlantic Canada still without power. Crews from eastern North America headed to that region to help restore power. That includes Hydro Ottawa crews. Now some left yesterday, others got their send-off this morning, including from the Prime Minister, who visited those crews just earlier today. And Russian authorities have raised the school shooting death toll now to 15, including 11 children, 24 others wounded. That shooting in a city about 1,000 clicks east of Moscow. Russia's investigative committee identified the gunman as a graduate from that school, and the regional governor said that gunman killed himself following the attack. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
It's time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Does Ottawa have a drug problem? And if so, is it getting worse? In places like the Byward Market, Lower Town, Sandy Hill, picking up where we left off on Friday. And if that's the case, what should be done about it? 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. I mean, what do you think about things like supervised injection sites? We have 4 of them. What do you think about offering a clean supply of drugs? I know we've talked about that before. What do you think about the idea of decriminalizing all hardcore street drugs or legalizing all hard street drugs? What do you think about that idea? Because it's an idea that's out there. And what do you think about having more police or even a police station in the Byward Market? There's a candidate for mayor touting that as part of his platform. That's Mark Sutcliffe. Police station in the Byward Market. Does Ottawa have a drug problem? I want to pick up on a conversation. It kind of took off out of the blue on Friday during the Talkback Hour, the Friday free-for-all, the situation in Lower Town, situation in the Byward Market, the situation in Sandy Hill, the problem as it stands right now with drug addiction, with homelessness, with the mentally ill. What should we be doing about this, in your opinion? 613-750-1310, 613-750-1310. I want to get back into this issue again because it's an important issue, but it's also more so because it's the municipal election year. And all of these issues, they're election issues. As the voters elect a new mayor and a new city council, there's going to be a new city councillor for Rideau Vanier Ward. I'll play you some highlights in a moment from Friday's show. All of this was unprompted, and that's what makes the Friday free-for-all so great. You know, one person called, happens to be a merchant in the Rideau Center, and he was expressing great concern and frustration about what he sees every day on his way to work. And that prompted a number of other calls, all telling similar stories. Stories of open drug use. Stories of needles and other drug paraphernalia littering parking lots, other parts of the city. Concern about people passed out, zoned out, drugged out on sidewalks. You know, no sleeping bags, no tents, nothing. Just passed out. Like they just took the drugs and just, boom, down. Speaking of tents, I saw some this morning. I made a point of driving around parts of Lower Town. Saw quite a few tents. People sleeping in tents, obviously. More than I have before. I've seen that before, but like more than I have before. In different places than I've seen before. And I mean, I worked in the Byward Market for 20 years. I lived in the Byward Market for, gosh, you add it all up, probably close to a decade. I lived in 3 different places in the Byward Market over the years. Never saw as many tents as I saw this morning. Seems to be a new thing. I mean, look, parts of Lower Town, Byward Market, Rideau Street, let's face it, some parts of those neighborhoods have always had kind of a rough edge, I would say. Especially the closer you get to King Edward because of the concentration of homeless shelters. But I'll tell you what, based on what I heard on Friday, it sounds like it's getting worse and people have had enough and they want something done about it. People are on their way to work or they're here as tourists and they're being harassed in the streets. People are afraid, they're being yelled at or they're being physically intimidated, threatened. There are complaints that the Ottawa police aren't visible enough. Complaints that it consumes a lot of healthcare resources, especially paramedic resources. That it's causing great disruption in the Rideau Centre. A couple of callers mentioned, if you think about it, where the Terry Fox statue used to be, where Wellington Street goes down to Rideau Street. You cross the street there where Sussex Colonel By is, that kind of crossroads. There's an underpass there. And I'm told that is something else altogether. That has become a major hangout campsite for the homeless, and it is not somewhere you want to be. I have taken calls from people in Sandy Hill. They don't like what they're seeing. And some people think it's a shame that this is happening in this city. And there's a real sense among some people that I've spoken to that it didn't used to be this bad. That the situation with drug addiction in the core is getting worse. So I have all kinds of questions for you. I just want to see where the conversation goes throughout the hour. Dan in Ottawa. Good morning. You're on City News. Dan.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah. Hi, Dan. Does Ottawa have a drug problem, and is it getting worse?
I don't know if it's a drug problem, but it's a big problem.
Okay.
It's a shame. I keep hearing that Ottawa is such a pretty city and built for tourists. Well, go around the core where you drove this morning. You see people strewn all over the sidewalks, sleeping, so I expect drugs is involved there. But not only that, the tents, they are not just where you said. I saw them along the canal recently.
Oh, along the canal, okay.
Under the trees.
Yeah,
I think what is it called? The Capital Commission.
National Capital Commission.
Yes,
yeah.
is probably doing something because they don't seem to stay long there.
Okay.
But another thing that gets to me, and I'm finally happy that somebody's talking about it, is all those people who keep ransoming the drivers at every traffic light. Not just in one direction, sometimes in both directions.
Right.
And they wade into the traffic. They are still there when the light turns green. And nobody does anything about it. I have never seen a cop do anything about it.
It's very dangerous.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're on drugs. It's very...
And we should not have to contend with this at every traffic light. I go from New Edinburgh down to Billingsbridge, and at every traffic light there are a couple of these guys.
Right. So you would go along like the Vanier Parkway and down that way? Yeah, okay.
And MacArthur Road and so on and so forth.
Right.
And something has to be done.
Right.
And
so you think it's getting worse? Like it's Dan?
Really not doing what it should.
Okay. Dan?
I see weeds a foot tall along the sidewalks. in the gutter.
Yeah, okay, well, that's, we can complain about the landscaping some other day. But, Dan, it's getting worse? You think it's getting worse?
Much worse.
Yeah, okay, Dan. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Yep, bye-bye. Yep. 750-1310. Garth in Nepean. Garth.
Good morning, Rob.
We have a drug problem. And is it getting worse, in your opinion?
Yeah, we do have a drug problem here in the City of Ottawa, and yes, it is getting worse.
Okay.
I think it was exacerbated by COVID in the last 2 years. A lot of services have either shut down or it's been difficult for the clients who use them to get access.
Okay.
And a lot of the services are now being concentrated in that downtown core area. There's the 3 shelters within that 20-block radius.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of the services that the street homeless use are there, meals and healthcare and the safe injection sites. And again, I lived in the Vancouver's downtown east side for 13 years, and this is just almost a mirror image of what's happening there. And it's unfortunately, with winter coming, it's just going to get worse. And putting a police station in the market area is not going to help.
Why not?
In Vancouver, there was a police station right at Main and Hastings, and it did little to nothing to stem the illegal activities that were going on within that neighborhood.
Okay.
What I suggest is a model that we developed in Vancouver. It's where we give people who are seen as the problem an opportunity to become part of the solution. We helped organize Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, VANDU, and it morphed out into Surrey, SANDU. And we encouraged the people in that situation to come to meetings, to be educated, to receive health services, to receive the opportunity to go to rehab,
right,
to to be in charge of the needle exchanges, the needle cleanup. We give them stipends and meal certificates.
Well, yeah, I don't know what we used to have a needle hunter program in the city. I don't know if that's still going here or what.
It is not because of COVID.
Oh, because of COVID. Okay. Well, all right. By my count, I've been trying to find as many city documents as I can, but gosh, the data from the city and the reports from the city are all hopelessly out of date now. The latest I could find on actually how many needles Ottawa Public Health and its various agencies and city agencies are actually giving out is probably 1 million a year now, 1 million needles. They're not all being consumed in the supervised injection sites. So that leaves a lot of needles that become potential litter and a public health concern. Now, we used to have a needle hunter program, but you say we fell victim to COVID. So, we've got to get on top of these programs. These programs need to be reinstated. If we're going to have 4 supervised injection sites and this sort of approach to harm reduction in the city, then you hear it. You hear the frustration in some of the residents. They want something done about this.
Well, then involve the people who are perceived as the problem. If you don't want them to be injecting on the street or in full view of the public and improperly discarding their paraphernalia, their needles,
right,
then incentivize that to get them to be part of the solution.
Be part of the solution.
To clean up, to help themselves.
All right, Garth, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be right back. Rob Snow Show. This is City News.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Focus better.
Partner better.
Sleep better.
Breathe better.
Love better. Work better. Friend better. Unwind better.
Everything gets better when you get active.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
I am Gagwege. My name means everything.
Tom Longboats.
I am Wolf Clan, Onondaga Nation. I've run many different races. I've run to survive and to be free. I've run to win for honor.
His people might be lazy, but this one's damn fast.
My people respected our runners, people who carried important messages from village to village.
I need a guide to the next post. Dispatch carrier, sir. I can get you there. God's sakes, man, slow down. Where do you think I am, Tom Longboat? No, sir. I am.
Running makes me feel alive. It's everything.
Tom Longboat was the first Indigenous person to win the Boston Marathon. He ran his way to international fame and became an inspiration to generations of athletes.
Enjoy the fresh outdoors. Play an important role in the lives of school-age children. Get paid to make a difference in your community. Become a crossing guard. We are currently recruiting crossing guards for the school year. We offer a competitive wage with various perks and opportunities for bonuses. Join the Ottawa Safety Council in keeping kids safe in the nation's capital. Find out more at crossing-guard.ca.
What are we doing about COVID? Seems like the communications have been all about how everything's opening up, and yet here in Ottawa we're experiencing our 7th wave, so a bit of a contradiction there.
We're in infinity. Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Does Ottawa have a drug problem? If so, is it getting worse? And if that's the case, what should be done about it? Moving along, Odin. In Ottawa, you're on City News. Odin.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, sir. We have a drug problem in this city. Is it getting worse? What's your opinion?
I think there's a drug problem in the city, but there has been for a lot of years. I'm a recovering addict myself. I've been clean for about 32 years now.
Good for you, sir.
It is not an easy thing to do. It basically takes everything you've got. But the problem is that with all of these other situations, letting them just use everywhere, in my opinion, a lot of these safe injection sites, you're enabling them.
You're enabling them. Okay. All right.
And the problem is that that's probably the worst thing ever to do with an addict is to just enable them, just be like, oh, well, we think this is better. So you give them all the opportunities to do it, and it's just going to breed things to get worse, which I believe the city has gotten. I mean, back in the day, if I was stoned on the street, drunk on the street, I got picked up and went to jail.
Right.
And now it's like, wow, well, we can't do anything about them. You know, and so when people complain, there's nothing that's done, and it's like, you're not helping the city and you're not helping them. I think between the province and the city, they've just made things worse.
Okay, so you think supervised injection sites are not the proper course of action? We have 4 of them. I'm told they're all busy, and the city needs more of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're just spilling it onto the streets. They don't really care. They're looking for a place to do it otherwise, because the thing is I don't think that they're helping them at all.
The people working in there tell me it can be a gateway to like rehab or.
I worked in one of the couple of drop-in centers where they did the needle exchange and such things. It was not a safe injection site, but I mean, everybody that worked there back when I did, mind you, this is going back a decade, too.
Sure.
But the thing was that nobody really believed in those kind of things, you know, because all you're doing is just enabling the whole system for everyone to get worse.
Okay, what do you think about the idea of having a police station down in that area?
I don't think a police station is going to make a difference.
Wouldn't make a difference, okay.
They don't care because there's nothing to fear.
Who doesn't care?
Well, the addicts.
Oh, addicts. Okay.
Why would they care? You can have 100 cops on the street. If they're not doing anything...
Right. Okay.
What are they going to care?
All right. Thank you, Odin. Thank you.
Cool. Have a great day.
Yeah, so what... I want to play this clip, and then we'll take another call. This is from Friday's show from a merchant in the Rideau Center, and then it prompted a lot of... other calls. You'll recognize one of the voices, outgoing city councillor Caroline Meehan. This happens sometime. One person calls, raises a particular issue, and other people say, hey, that's right on the money. I want to call in and get on that conversation. So this is from Friday, in the Friday Free-for-All.
I happen to be a merchant in the Rideau Center. The situation with the homeless people, the mentally ill people, the drug addicts, just the general crazy people yelling at us when we're walking down the street. This morning I was walking over in front of Chateau Laurier. There was a man threatening all of the tourists that were walking by, and he's laughing his head off, and he's threatening to hit them with a stick. I looked around. There's no cops around. There's never any cops around Rideau Street, ever.
I have. I know someone who sells, who is a merchant in the Rideau Center as well. Sells high-end perfume. Sees a lot of tourists come to him, and he told me a couple of weeks ago that the tourists are coming in and they're rolling their eyes and they're saying, "What is going on with this city?"
Every morning I walk to work. There are 7, 8, 9 people lying on the sidewalk, just lying there. No pack sack, no nothing. Or sleeping bag. One morning there was a guy, half his body was in the street. I was standing there and I was saying to myself, should I try to wake him up? A car's going to run over him.
The people are saying, it's taken me a lot to get here, but I'm never coming back. These people are going home and talking about the abysmal state of our capital city, and it's going to hurt tourism for years to come. So, and also, what's happening is I have a friend who lives in the market. He had friends, his family come over from Paris this summer, and he put them in a car and whisked them to Quebec City. He did not want a chance them seeing where he lives.
Greg has just moved to the market. Is that right, Greg?
Yes.
And
sold our house a year ago. We moved down here in September last year, and it's been quite an experience. I think the very first night we were here, you can almost set the clock by it. By around 8 p.m., you start to hear the 911 calls going out, because they're 911 because it's like, ambulance, police, and fire going down Cumberland, down into one of the shelter areas.
Right.
And it's hour and a half later, another one, hour and a half later, another one, and it's like you're going to bed hearing these things going over and over again, and it's something has to be done with that.
Family member came in from out of town, was staying at the Holiday Inn on Rideau Street, the one just east of King Edward, right on Rideau.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
And so there's that store there right at the corner, the Circle K. And the parking lot was just like, it was about probably 6, 7 in the night, just about a couple months ago, so middle of summer, and it was just people sitting there shooting up drugs, smoking crack. There was in a 2, like we're talking about, having trouble with healthcare and people waiting for ambulances. In a 2-block area, I saw 4 ambulances dealing with people passed out on the sidewalk.
I just think it used to be a max, but it's it's the same thing with, as he said. It's like you walk by there. My wife will not walk by there unless I come with her, because you're
talking about the larger Loblaws up on Rideau Street there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Either whether you're on the north side, on that side, or on the south side, walking past Shoppers Drug Mart, it's basically people there shooting up. There's needles lying around everywhere, and it's like something has to be done about that, because it's not comfortable for somebody who isn't big and strong.
Wow. So that was Friday's show. So that's why I wanted to pick up on the topic this morning. Really caught me off guard. Al in Canada. Al.
Yeah, hi, Rob.
Yeah, hi, Al. Do we have a drug problem in this city? Is it getting worse?
It's probably getting worse.
Yeah.
Just, when you consider the fact that disability and pension, they pay out about $1,000 a month, and the cost for a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,200 to $1,600, even a bachelor. So I guess they end up on the street, and then the drugs are like an escape from reality.
Okay, so you think it ties into the housing affordability crisis then?
That's correct, yeah. For low-income housing, you're on a wait list for 5 years.
Right.
You know,
well, I drove around Lower Town. I was struck by the number of tents I saw along the Rideau River this morning. I couldn't believe it. It's really quite something. Yeah. And I mean, winter's coming.
It's
Al,
no big
right?
surprise. Yeah, I don't know sort of how they survive out there with our climate in this city.
Yeah. So what do we do? What should be done? What do you do about something like that?
What can you do? You know, to arrest them and throw them in the jail, they probably welcome the opportunity to have a warm bed and
No,
meal.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know anybody who wants to spend a night in the Innis Road jail.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't know anybody that wants to sleep on the street down by Rideau either.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Al.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, he's tying it into housing affordability crisis. Might be onto something there, too. The news coming up next. Halftime. Rob Snow Show. This is City News.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
He fell. Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Veer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
Oh, you can drive, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
$20. And Maggie, Mrs. Calabash, come into my kitchen. A quick mayonnaise, egg yolks, garlic, Dijon mustard, lemon juice, olive oil, immersion blender. Go down, come up. Voila, mayonnaise. Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
The houseless crisis, because it really is a crisis down here on Rideau Street. There is not enough shelters for men especially, and we need to be helping our most vulnerable.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Monday, September 26th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is cloudy and 13. In Smith Falls, it is 15. And here's what's making news this hour. The federal government has announced that Canada's remaining COVID-19 border restrictions, including mandatory vaccination, testing, and quarantine for international travelers, will end on Friday. Also, people traveling by air or rail will no longer need to wear masks or undergo health checks as of October 1st. The use of the ArriveCan app will also no longer be mandatory as of Saturday, but federal officials say travelers can use the app to submit customs and immigration declarations before they arrive at certain Canadian airports. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with Hydro Ottawa crews who are traveling to the Maritimes today to support power restoration efforts in the region. Hundreds of thousands of Atlantic Canada residents remain without power after the post-tropical storm Fiona ripped through that portion of the country. The federal government has announced that members of the Canadian Armed Forces are being deployed to help with recovery efforts, noting that support will go to Newfoundland, Nova Scotia and PEI to help with the cleanup efforts. City News time is 10:33. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
It's time to talk back
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Does Ottawa have a drug problem? Is it getting worse? What do we do about it? I'm putting it that way because of a now infamous Ottawa Sun headline from many years ago by then columnist Christina Blizzard. Ottawa, you have a drug problem. And Christina Blizzard recounted what it was like to be a tourist here, to visit the Byward Market, to try to have dinner on a restaurant patio, recounted being bugged by panhandlers, how you couldn't help but notice there was a serious drug addiction problem here in Ottawa. She called it a disgrace. And then some people who read that column, lefties mostly, called her a disgrace for pointing out the situation here in Ottawa. That's going back to, 2007, like 15 years ago. Around the same time, a columnist with the Globe and Mail had to call him Canada's cracked out capital. Canada's cracked out capital, and W5 got into the action. Did a documentary called Capital Shame. The tourist brochures are a far cry from reality. W5 investigates the drug epidemic in the nation's capital, circa 2007, right? But then kind of hit me on Friday. Sounds like things are getting worse. And, if that's the case, why is that the case? What can we do about it? Does Ottawa have a drug problem? 750-1310. Bruno, downtown. Bruno.
Hey, good morning, Rob. How's it going?
It goes, sir. Bruno, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say about a month ago, I'm always driving downtown. I drive a big truck.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I hit one of those panhandlers.
Oh, my gosh.
I got charged. He wasn't hurt. The ambulance came. He was okay and this and that. But I got charged $300, careless driving.
Right.
And I have to go to court.
Okay. Where did this happen?
Corner of King Edward and St. Patrick.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen every day.
Unfortunately, like especially big trucks, and these people go between cars and trucks.
Yeah.
Even if there's a green light, and and I work for a living, and I have to go to court one day out of my day job.
Yeah.
To prove to them that it wasn't not my fault and this and that, but I still had a ticket of $300.
Right. And now it's careless driving, and you might hit your insurance and everything else. There might be an ongoing cost for that, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
and if you check off the 417, I believe at Parkdale, it says sign, no panhandling.
Oh, really?
And there's always people there.
Okay. I've never seen that sign, but yeah.
Your previous caller said that, the police say they don't do anything.
Okay.
They let them be.
Okay. Mark Sutcliffe wants to put what amounts to a police station in the Byward Market. Do you think that would do anything?
No, that won't do anything.
Wouldn't do anything? No?
Because the police officers are directly downtown, and they're walking and they're biking because there's no snow right now.
Right.
And are they doing something about it? No.
Okay. So you think it's getting worse, Bruno? Just based on what you see outside your windshield every day? You think it's getting worse?
It's getting worse. They're getting younger and younger, and it's getting worse and worse.
Okay. All right, Bruno. Thank you. All the best to you, sir.
Day, Rob.
You too. Yep. 750-1310. Couple of lines available. Picking up where we left off on Friday. Steve in Ottawa. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
Hi, Steve. I'm good. Thank you.
I would say yes, Ottawa has a drug problem.
Yeah, is it getting worse?
I don't know if it's getting worse, but I was down at Parliament Hill this weekend.
Okay.
And I didn't see anyone doing drugs on Parliament Hill. I didn't see anyone sleeping on the hill anywhere.
Right.
But I did see about 300 officers just standing around doing nothing, checking their phones and high-fiving. Maybe they should just extend their perimeter a little bit.
Okay.
Like a 3-block radius around Parliament Hill.
Yeah. Okay.
And that might help with some of the violence and stuff going on down there. There's only for a police station when there's 300 officers standing around doing nothing all day. Just saying, maybe they should do some policing.
Do some policing. Okay. All right, Steve. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Rob,
okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Okay. Does Ottawa have a drug problem? I know. Maybe you hear that question and you're thinking, of course you dummy, Rob Snow. It's a city of 1 million people. Of course we have a drug problem here. Like any big city, we have big city problems, and they're only getting bigger. Other might say, you know what, why I wanted to approach it this way. Some people said that this would happen. That the approach that we have taken to dealing with drug addiction via harm reduction and making that the pillar of it all, harm reduction, would make it too easy for people to remain addicted to drugs. And now look at the mess. Maybe it's more nuanced than that. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but we have tents popping up where they didn't used to be before. We have more people sleeping in the streets. I mean, sleeping in the street, passed out in the streets. Passed out. Business owners afraid when they go to their business in the morning, they're hearing it from customers, like, what the heck is going on here? People who live in the Byward Market, Lower Town, Sandy Hill, are complaining about an ever-increasing amount of open drug abuse, discarded drug paraphernalia. What do you do about this? Carolyn, you're on City News. Carolyn.
Hi.
Hi, Carolyn.
I live in Sandy Hill.
You do? And
for 15 years, over 15 years now.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you that I moved here from Montreal, and I was shocked back in 2007.
Right.
But I'm literally, it has gotten so bad on Rideau Street that it is shocking. You have to step over the bodies to walk into the bay on Rideau Street.
Oh, my gosh.
And I live down by the Ottawa River.
Okay.
I back on there, and so I walk all the way up.
Okay.
Starting at about Loblaws, it starts before then, but around that Loblaws on Rideau.
Yes.
You have to cross the street. By the Bytown Theatre, there's 25 people sitting on the street there every day, all day.
Every day, all day.
There's a bookstore there.
Yeah, I know the place. They used to have books outside. I don't know if they have books outside anymore. They used to have books outside.
They have occasionally. He takes them in now once in a while.
Right.
Across the street, you have the Safe Injection Community Center.
Right, yeah.
At one point, they were lined up along the side street by the Pizza Hut there. They
pizza. Yeah.
The city eventually shooed them away. They had sleeping. They were staying there overnight and everything.
Okay.
Eventually, they were moved away, and a fence was put there, so they can't sit there. So you know where they sit now? There's a bus stop right on the corner there, bus bench. They're lined up there on the bus bench every single day, sitting down on the road. There's police cars parked there.
Right.
2 weeks ago, there was a little boy sitting with them. I'm saying a little boy, probably 12, 13 years old, stoned out of his mind, lying flat on his back.
Oh, my gosh.
And the adults sitting there were giving him drugs. I rapped on the window of the police car. They were sitting right there. They had to see all these people there. But they weren't getting out of their other car. So I knocked on the door, and I said, if you look down past the adults there, there's a little boy on the ground that can't sit up. He's drugged.
So, again, you go back 15 years in that neighborhood there.
Yeah, and it is...
Is it as bad as it's ever been in your...
It's as bad as it's ever been.
As bad as it's ever been.
You know, I mean, I've raised a family. I know a lot about life. I'm an older lady.
Yes.
So what do you... I'm not shocked easy. And
right.
But no, it is bad.
It's bad.
I see police vans.
May I ask you, ma'am, do you fear for your safety at times?
Occasionally.
Yes.
But I don't go out in the dark.
Won't go out.
And when I do, I carry a light.
Right.
But if I have to, no, I don't. I would never walk down Rideau Street past dark.
You wouldn't go onto Rideau Street after dark?
No. And no one I know would.
You're the second person that's told me that.
And it's simply because you also see, you know, the mentally disturbed people running down the street, hollering, swearing, waving their arms.
Right. So what should we do about this? What do you? I mean,
well,
this is there's going to be a new mayor. There's going to be a new city council. You'll have a new.
I think the police that are parked there.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be sitting in their cars. They should get out and do something.
Okay. All right.
Because that's what I'm observing.
More proactive policing.
Yeah, I mean, they have to realize that these people are. I mean, I don't know where you would take them. You don't want to put them all in jail, but definitely something has to be done.
Something has to be done. Okay, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
My pleasure. Yeah. That's why we're here doing this. Kevin in Gatineau. Kevin.
Hey, good morning, Rob.
Hi, Kevin. So you've brought this up several times.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, and I think we agreed that, you know, as hard of a pill to swallow, it seems like safe supply might be the only way to go. We've tried for decades and decades to sort of arrest our way out of the problem, and that doesn't work. It's hard. It feels like maybe it's getting worse. Perhaps I'm just as I get older, maybe I notice it more, and my health's declining. I'm a little more afraid, especially with a young child, to go on and wait for the bus on Rideau and stuff. So it's hard, but it seems as hard as, the safe supply, to reduce the crime and the panhandling all day that people have to spend, invest.
So that they wouldn't commit whatever it is. The estimate sometimes is as many as 10 petty crimes a day to support a drug habit.
Shoplifting and so on.
Shoplifting, breaking into cars, breaking into apartments, whatever.
And then maybe they'll do something else with their day if they don't have that stress of, getting the cash to score all day long, and
maybe
the safe injection sites are more for reducing the deaths aspect of it.
I suppose.
I think today we're more so focused on livability, because it's also easy to, just say, oh well, they die. I can see that too. I'm very empathetic on the one hand. It does come down to housing. You had a fellow a few weeks ago who worked in the industry and
supportive housing. Yeah, he said we need more supportive housing where you have the low income. You have like say a rent geared to income type place. They want to build this actually at the Shepherds, I believe. They want to put a tower on top of the Shepherds building.
I favor all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Keep people.
And then you have services there. If there be a drug treatment program there, there'd be a community public health nurse there. A doctor would come by every now and then.
I'm curious, what do you think the cost is to keep somebody for a month at the Innis Road jail? As much of a hellhole as I hear
probably,
it is.
I would guess, probably $30,000 a month, I bet.
For one inmate?
I bet, yeah. I bet you it's probably $1,000 a day to keep somebody in jail for a day.
That much?
I bet, yeah, I bet. I bet it is.
$1,000 a day.
Yeah, it's just a guess. I don't know, but it's just a guess. You got to feed them. You got to house them. You got to guard them. You got to make sure they don't get in fights.
So I'd say then, rather than building another one of those, then
we're building another one. We are in Kentville.
Or two more.
No, we're building another one, and we should build another one. The one that we have is out of date. It was built for a city that would never grow beyond 300,000 people. We're a city of 1 million people.
Just the way it goes, and we need two more.
All right, I got to go, Kevin. I got to go. I'm right out of time. Thank you. Yeah. 10:46, Rob Snow Show, City News.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hi guys, my name is Vi and I'm a part of Encore Ottawa 3. My set at the Meridian Theatre is coming out this week and I hope you tune in.
It's been 2 years later still. At St. John Ambulance, we're all about community. We teach life-saving skills and provide community support through our volunteer services. All St. John Ambulance product sales and training registrations support these important services. Volunteer, donate, or enroll in a program today so we can continue to have an impact on our community. Visit sja.ca to learn more. At St. John Ambulance, we do more than save lives, we change lives.
On Monday's Daytime Ottawa, the Ottawa Safety Council joins us on the show. We're going to be talking safety around school zones and the desperate need for crossing guards. It is a great way for you to be a part of your community and, of course, help get our kids back to school safe. Also going to be talking about the beautiful Women's Expo. It is back in town. We'll give you all the details on that. And Jeanette Ewan will join us. She's going to give us her top must-haves for fall.
Here we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Sahai from The Wiggles, and this is my new book, Something in Common. Join me on an adventure as a camp counsellor helping some amazing children make friends and share what family means to them. I wrote this book with my friends at Children's Aid Foundation of Canada to help children who might feel lonely or like they don't belong. Not everyone has the same type of family, but we all have something in common. Download Something in Common for free.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by local authors for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
You see a lot of these luxury rental apartments that are coming out, and if you're a single person, it makes it extremely challenging to afford just basic lifestyle needs.
On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Does Ottawa have a drug problem? It's been a very, very interesting discussion over the last few days. You know, when we look at the harm reduction strategy that we've had in Ottawa, is it a case of, you know, where you reap what you sow? Are we killing people with kindness? Some people might think that, killing people with kindness, making it too easy to stay addicted to drugs. I bring this up because this has been a raging debate in Ottawa, I would say, for 20 years now. That we first started giving out needles. Then we provided so-called safe spaces to use drugs, to supervised injection sites. Now there's a debate about giving people a clean drug supply and maybe even all-out legalization of all of these drugs. And the case goes that it's all too permissive. And that no wonder the situation on the streets is what it is. Is there anything to that? It's all being done in the name of harm reduction. That's been the public health approach for a long time now. That people are going to do drugs anyway. So let's make it as safe as possible. So people, for example, with needle exchange programs, so people don't become infected and spread diseases like hepatitis C and HIV. Let's limit the number of people dying from overdoses. And that's the reason we have 4 supervised injection sites. But then look at what's happening on the streets of Lowertown and the market in Sandy Hill. Is it time to rethink this approach? David in Ottawa South, you're on City News. David.
Well, hi, Rob. Thanks again for taking my call. I'm going to go rapid fire with a whole bunch of ideas, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
First of all, it's not just downtown. I live up in the Walkley Bank area, and I see people like they talked about downtown on the street panhandling, both sides of the street, both ways at the intersection and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you got to look at the causes. Mental health issues, of course. I spoke with a man in his 30s who told me that he was put out of his house at age 13 by his father because they found out he was gay.
Okay. Wow.
You know,
okay.
So there's all kinds of causes. Now let's go
trauma. Trauma in someone's background,
mental health issues as well.
Yeah.
Now let's go to what to do about it.
Yeah.
The police can't pick them up. They won't. They're afraid to because, of course, these people resist, and the more they resist, the more force the police have to use to take them away, whether it's to a hospital or to jail or to wherever it is.
Yeah.
Then the police get dinged with police brutality thing and all the bleeding hearts and defund the police, that kind of stuff. So they go to the hospital, they go to the emergency, they get taken off to jail. Then what? They're homeless. Where do they go? Back on the street.
Yeah.
So there's right from top to bottom, A to Z, left to right. There's so many things to consider, and some kind of supportive housing. It hasn't got to be fancy. A small building with bed sitting rooms and people who come by now and again, nurses, social workers, somebody to check on them, whoever it is.
Yeah. Access to programs.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And to get them out. So they got some place to go after they leave in this road or when they're released from the hospital.
Okay.
We don't have to cater to them and treat them like royalty, but we have to do something to break the cycle. And there's just so many reasons and so many things. And you can put a police station down in the Byward Market, so what? If the police aren't going to touch them because the police are afraid to, because it's FIDO, it's forget it, drive on.
Right. Okay. All right. That's interesting. I thought it would be more popular, this idea of having a more increased police presence in the market, but people don't see much value in that. Matt in Stittsville. Matt.
Hi there.
Yeah, hi, Matt. Hi.
Thanks for having me on, Rob.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Ottawa absolutely has a drug problem. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And,
is it getting worse, though? Is it,
Well, it's not getting any better, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I hear a lot of your callers pointing the finger at the police, and like your last caller just said, what are they going to do? Where are they going to bring them? A lot of these people, they're just sitting out in the street because they're homeless.
Right.
And, yes, they're using drugs, but what are the police supposed to do? Is it against the law to sit? If the business owner they're sitting in front of isn't asking them to leave, the police don't have the authority to remove someone from someone else's property unless they're asked to.
Right. Okay.
Where do they bring them? To jail? That's not an offense. Do they bring them to the hospital?
Okay.
Do they need medical attention? The hospital's not going to keep them. They won't even keep people with mental health issues these days.
Right. Okay.
Right?
So what's one possible solution? Because it all sounds very hopeless this morning. We've got a caller like Carolyn. Won't even walk on Rideau Street at night.
Oh, and you know what? I don't blame her. Right. I don't blame her at all. But you see, I might have some firsthand knowledge of some of this stuff. But when police respond to a place like Dundonald Park to remove some people using drugs or some homeless people, the police hear it from the city councillors, and the city councillor in that area is Catherine McKinney.
Yeah.
She's not supportive of the police and what they're trying to do.
Okay.
The police are so short-staffed, they can't even staff minimum staffing. So how are they supposed to go around just moving people sitting when they're actually going from call to call to call?
Okay.
So, maybe, I know not everyone's a fan of this safe supply thing, but maybe that would...
You think there might be something to it?
Well, you know what? I think some of them are... no one wants to be a homeless drug addict.
Right.
No one signs up for that. But if you're a drug addict and you don't have to commit petty crime to get your fix, well, then maybe the petty crime goes down. Maybe the businesses don't get broken into. Maybe the cars don't get broken into as much. Do I think you can prevent it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's realistic to think.
When I had former police chief, now Senator Vern White, he said, you would register for it and it would be, your name would be on a list or whatever, and this is how it would be
similar to
dispensed.
methadone,
like
or
methadone,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and I think that would be a more realistic and it's possible, I think, to do something like that. But is it possible to eliminate all these people down in the market? I don't know. I think you need to open some more mental health clinics and actually get these people some help. Because it's when all these, like the Royal Ottawa doesn't have as many people in it anymore because they just don't have the staff to keep them there. So people with mental health issues, they'll go to the hospital, but 72 hours later they're back on the street with nowhere to go.
Okay.
And these panhandlers, they're just trying to get money for their fix. But, you give them a ticket for panhandling, they don't have any money to pay it. So what's the point of giving them a ticket?
Right. Okay. All right, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Matt,
thanks for having me.
Holy cow. I guess that's our time. Yeah, we better stop here. If I take another call, we'll be totally late for the news. Sorry I didn't get to everybody. But thank you to everyone we did get on the air and for contributing to the conversation. Most complex problem maybe the city's facing right now. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
I need to know that my voice matters and feel like my opinion is going to have an impact on our society and our youth.
Things like the convoy really showed a lot of separation between municipal parties and even federal, provincial lines of communication. So we want to see a lot more responsibility taken on fronts that really affect people in the city, as well as probably seeing increases in housing and industrial space.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Join me next time on Simply Cooking by Chef, where I'm going to show you how to make a traditional pizza and even a gluten-free one, all from scratch.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Monday, September 26th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, mostly cloudy and 15. In Smiths Falls, it is 16. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Traveling to and around Canada will return to pre-pandemic normal beginning on Saturday. The federal government has announced it is dropping all remaining COVID-19 traveling and border measures. City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has the details.
The federal government is choosing not to renew the remaining COVID travel measures, which means on October 1st, the vaccine and mask mandates, use of the Arrive Can app, and all remaining testing and quarantine requirements will expire. While you will no longer need to wear a mask on a plane or a train in Canada, public health officials are strongly urging people to do so. Transport Minister Omar Al-Gabra credits the epidemiological situation and the vaccination rate for being able to make this change.
We're able to do this because tens of millions of Canadians rolled up their sleeves and got vaccinated. We've all worked together to follow the guidelines, get vaccinated, and protect one another.
But health officials are warning the pandemic is not over yet, and we're likely in for a fall wave. When asked about the mixed messaging, the health minister says the importation of cases is now minor and we need to focus on dealing with the domestic situation. The federal government warns it could bring back these measures if the situation warrants a return to restrictions. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
All adults in Ontario can now book an appointment to receive an Omicron-targeted COVID-19 vaccine. The province announced that the bivalent vaccine is now available to all residents 18 or older as of today. Health Minister Sylvia Jones says getting a booster dose is especially important with the start of the fall and winter respiratory illness season. The Ministry of Health recommends a 6-month wait between booster doses. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A seasonal day for us, some showers, thunderstorms at times, the high about 17 degrees. Periods of light rain tonight near 11, and tomorrow more showers in the morning than a steady light rain for the afternoon, a high about 16. We're off to a wet start this week. For today, the high 17.
City News Time, 11:03. Residents of Atlantic Canada and Eastern Quebec are starting their cleanup efforts after the region was rocked by Hurricane Fiona, the strongest storm to ever hit the East Coast. Now, members of the Canadian Armed Forces are being deployed to help with recovery efforts with about 100 trips apiece. either in place or en route to Newfoundland, Nova Scotia and PEI to provide assistance with the cleanup efforts. The federal government is matching donations to the Canadian Red Cross. Hundreds of thousands of people in Atlantic Canada still without power after Hurricane Fiona passed over that region. Crews from across eastern North America are heading to Atlantic Canada to help, and that includes Hydro Ottawa crews. Some left yesterday, others today, and at their Sanford, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited with the crews this morning. I am Damilola Unime, and for news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Time for Municipal Monday. This is our look at election issues in advance of the municipal election, October 24th. And it's great to welcome back Walter Robinson. At one time was Chief of Staff to Ottawa Mayor Larry O'Brien. Welcome back.
Nice to chat with you, Rob.
And Maria McRae as well, former city councillor representing River Ward back in the day. Good morning, Maria McRae.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Well, Maria, we missed you last week. It's so great to get caught up with you this week. And now there's only, less than a month to go before the municipal election. So at this stage of the game, you've been here. Running as a challenger and as an incumbent. So right now, you want to get reelected or you want to win the election, and you've got less than a month. Where is the best place for a candidate to concentrate their efforts? What should they be doing right now with 28 days to go?
With zero hesitation, 100% absolute direction, every single door you can get on. And I'll tell you, for example, River Ward is a very large geographic ward, and every single election, we knocked on all the doors. And even the last election, I remember meeting up with the city staffer and said, well, why are you even out in the rain? You get your clipboards, you cover them up with your zip-top bags, and you go. You look the voters in the eye. You ask, can I have the privilege, the honor of representing you at City Hall? So when they ask you, what do you stand for? You tell them. Mm-hmm. Well, what have you done as incumbent? You tell them. Can you get along with others? How have you built our ward? Have you built things in the city? So I would recommend, if they're not door knocking by now, they're a little late, but they should be nonstop door knocking.
But that's where you get the most value for your time.
Absolutely. And
door knocking.
For example, absolutely, I think so. And then, well, we know so because we won 3 times with big majorities. But I'll tell you, in the rain even, go to condo buildings, go to apartment buildings.
Okay. All right. Walter, agree? Hit those doors?
I'm not going to argue with Maria's success, that's for sure. But yes, she's bang on. And this is something that people miss at a federal campaign, which is a different dynamic. But all the geofencing and geo-targeting and hashtagging this and social media that, there still is no substitute, as Maria points out, for a face-to-face conversation at the doors. And I would even say more important in this election, in the context of we've seen federal and provincial campaigns run in the shadows of COVID. You can now safely, for the most part, interact with somebody at their door, keeping your distance, figuring out what their concerns are, asking those questions. And I'm sure Maria had it. Hi, I'm running for such and such. Here's what I believe in. What issues are important to you, right? And lots of times you'll have people say, it'll be schooling or it'll be health care.
Right.
Well, as a candidate, you don't say, well, that's not my responsibility.
What do you say?
As a candidate, you can turn and say, here's what the city does. Here's what I will do as a city councillor. I'll work with my MPP. I'll work with your MP. We'll solve those problems together. And that's one of the key things. I know Maria did it at her time. And the best city councillors also work, regardless of their political persuasion, with the other orders of government. So, and then you can use all the digital technology, Rob. If it's at nighttime, if you're trying to get back to people by email, or somebody wants to do a Zoom call with you, now you can use all that other technology to be kind of almost 18 hours a day when you usually only have kind of afternoons and dinner hours and after dinner at people's doors, depending on where they work, where they don't work, those sorts of things.
Okay.
100% agree with Walter, and he's absolutely correct about what you do at the door if you pick up information that's not necessarily municipal. We used to have a running list of things we did at the end of the night, exactly as Walter said. sometimes it might be as simple as send an email over to your MP because so-and-so has a federal question. But I'll tell you, when you're an incumbent running, you also get a big to-do list of things that need to be done. So, for example, if we're on a street and there's a pothole issue, someone might literally walk you down the driveway and say, have a look at this, and then we can follow up with that because people forget. And sometimes the challengers get all feisty and they say, oh, it's all illegal. Well, no. If you're an incumbent doing your job, you have the right to report that issue. And that's something that is a bonus of being on the doors as well. You get to see things. And then when you're elected or re-elected, you have a mandate. So if you go out and do something, let's say you build a bridge across the airport parkway or whatever,
Twice.
for example.
Or 3 times.
Twice.
Yeah.
3 times. I'm not afraid to bring it up, but in all seriousness, you hear people say, that missing cycling link over here is a big issue. Then all of a sudden you get the funding for it and you can go back and say, if someone says, well, we don't want that, well, 3,600 doors that we visited, maybe 1,000 said yes.
Can I, Rob,
go ahead.
to Maria's point? She said you have a right. Yeah, the bridge 3 times. I'm going to the airport on Wednesday. I'm doing my next interview with you guys from a sunny beach far south. But Maria says not only a right, but a duty as an elected official, even in a campaign, to report that. But it's not an unfair advantage. Somebody else as a challenger can report it to 311 and get 3 other people to report the pothole to 311. So it's an even playing field there. So that's like a fake issue to take right off the table. It's your duty as an elected official, even in a campaign, to work for the people that you're representing. Even if you know you're going to lose, you're still that councillor till well into December for the most part when the first council meeting takes place.
Okay, let me ask you this, Maria. When you were running, how did you handle debates and debate invitations and what debates you would attend and what ones you wouldn't attend? Can you give me a sense of that?
Sure. So if my work schedule being important here, allowed it, we would attend. I remember one year a candidate got into a big hissy meltdown because I wouldn't miss the candlelight ceremony for veterans in favor of a debate. Well, no. My father-in-law was a veteran. We have many families. That's my duty. Okay. That's my honor to do that. So we would go if it fit my schedule. I'm not sure debates are always valuable. We would go anyways because, you go into it, let's say a church or school hall, so-and-so's got their candidate supporters in one section, and it's a big hodgepodge. You may have the odd person that comes to listen, but unfortunately sometimes those voices get drowned out by supporters that are there with an agenda. Right. Or you even can have people with an agenda that come just to ruin the day. They want to say something nasty. So if you have a good invigilator, and fortunately we had, so, numbers get drawn from a hat, so there's a random ask of questions from the audience, go. And, we just saw a federal leadership campaign where the winner didn't participate in televised debates. So you have to ask yourself, is that a good or a bad thing? So,
no, but I was just, I'm thinking like Ecology Ottawa is putting on, like they have 4 debates about the environment. Yeah. Like, why would I go to 4 debates if I was a candidate?
You wouldn't. And I've done debate prep at the local and national level for Prime Minister and for local candidates, and even Larry's campaign back in 2006. You also need to think who is putting on that debate. Is it a collection of community associations that are going to kind of represent the ward's interest, or is it a specific single issue interest group? And you make your call. And also as a campaign, even you can have a shape, to Maria's point, what is the process? Who is the moderator? What is it? You can work with them to shape the structure of a debate. But if it's not well done, it's it's just as bad as a town hall meeting. I think a town hall meeting is a place where people go and yell at you. Sometimes you have to do it, but that's basically what happens. So you say yes or no, and you make the call. You have other things to do, or is my time spent here in a place where 95% of the people have their minds made up? Right. Should I skip that debate for 2 hours and hit 350 doors and find some more lawn signs and some more votes?
Sure. And one quick thing to build on what Walter said, Rob, is that when you go to these debates, there is the opportunity in most cases to actually shape how the debates are going to take place. And Walter's absolutely right that if you're going to a debate where it's going to be just a bunch of screaming and yelling and carrying on, what's the point? And at the end of the day, I think it's valuable also for the one-on-ones with media. So one other thing is, and I don't say this because he's a candidate for mayor, but Mark Sutcliffe used to run a really good show where he would have the candidates on, give everybody the option to go on TV with him. It would be pre-taped. You could watch it before the first advance poll, and you knew with Mark there'd be no shenanigans. So if someone started shenanigans in the studio, he'd shut it down. So again, I think it's just as important, right? Community groups, if it's a bunch of people that are going to give you your marching orders, they are your bosses, then probably go. But if it's the fourth time that some group that wants money or has an agenda to push, do you need to go 4 times? Good question.
Okay. Let me ask you about getting the most bang for your campaign buck. The spending limit in most of the wards, if you're a candidate, it depends on how many eligible voters are in each ward, but I estimate it's between about $20,000 to $30,000 spending limit. Where do you get the most bang for the buck for your $20,000 to $30,000? Where would you spend the money? Maria?
Well, I would certainly, in this day and age, you would want to spend the money on your brochures that go to the households and have those, if you can afford it, Canada Post dropped if you don't have the volunteers. Because we take for granted the fact we think everybody's on TikTok and social media and whatnot. Not necessarily the case. And again, you talk to a lot of people who say, well, I'm not voting for candidate X because I didn't get a brochure or they didn't come to my door. You want to make sure that you at least get something in front of the voter.
Okay.
So literature,
yeah,
and signs if you can afford them, and for lawns. And remember, you see all the signs out there. Arterials don't vote. People's lawns vote, right? So make sure if you're focused on signs, they are on people's lawns who are voting or on their balconies or in their windows.
Right.
And then you want to put some stuff in if you have in terms of a bit of a website for your positions. And that stuff is like it's a Wix. It's there's a whole bunch of, you can build your own kind of. Some of the lesser known mayoral candidates who are doing that. Yeah. And just to pick up, I believe Derek Fage, to his credit, and credit to Rogers, he did all those kind of candidates debates this year.
He did 24 of them, yeah.
Because some guy named Sutcliffe is running for something. I'm not sure what he's doing these days. But
I have an estimate that election signs cost about $7,000, whereas to do I guess that would be called a mail-out, what you said, Maria, right? A mail-out would cost about $6,000. So about almost the same. What would you prefer, mail out versus signs, Maria, or both have value? I mean, that's almost, that's 2/3 of your budget right there.
Sure. My first priority, if I had to choose either or, my first priority would always be the literature. Because then you can drive that literature back to your website. So let's say you didn't have enough money for a big fold-out, but just a postcard. Send them to your website. But I'll tell you something. Walter is right. Arterials don't vote, but if you have a lawn sign on someone's lawn, they're telling their neighbors also, hey, Walter's got so-and-so sign on. He knows a lot about campaigns and politics. Maybe we should look into
Let's
this
go talk
guy
to him.
or gal. Exactly.
Talk to him. Yeah, okay.
Now, and I think my advice to my neighbors in the context of who they should vote for is better when they've had my sign on their lawns, just to kind of get you guys get that record straight. So,
okay. Right.
But the other thing
I'll say one thing.
Go ahead, Maria.
Sure. There's nothing better when you come home at night and your knees are sore and you're wet and you're tired, and as you go into your subdivision, every single house that's got a sign has a McRae sign. So, it makes you feel good at the end of the day that support is there. And again, not necessary if you don't have the money, but you certainly want to have them on the local properties before you put them up on the roads if you don't have any cash.
All right. When we come back, we'll have to stop here. When we come back, we'll talk about registered third parties. Rob Snow Show, City News.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Your mouth can do a lot of amazing things. And your mouth can save a life.
Hi, I'm Tom Wong.
I'm just one of close to 1,000 Canadians in search of a stem cell match. We need your help.
A simple swab is all you need to register on the National Stem Cell Database. You could be the one to save a life. Find the hero in you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will endeavor to describe the feeling on this ship. The American ship is just trailing the Blue Nose.
Angus should never have agreed to this last race. She's too old. That it!
Councillor, Halliard, Mac! Get to it, Mac! Appears there's some kind of difficulty. There seems to be something loose up there, I believe. The topsail's foul! I can't see a man!
Just once more, little girl. And you can rest.
Her last race and still undefeated. The Blue Nose out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia was fastest in the world for almost 20 years.
Flooding is causing widespread devastation in Pakistan. More than 1,000 people have died. 1/3 of the country is underwater, and 6 million people are in need of emergency assistance. The humanitarian coalition is responding to the crisis in Pakistan. You can help. Donate today at together.ca, and your donation will be matched by the Canadian government. That's together.ca, the humanitarian coalition. Together, saving more lives.
Focus better.
Partner better.
Sleep better.
Breathe better.
Love better. Work better. Friend better. Unwind better.
Everything gets better when you get active.
What are we doing about COVID? Seems like the communications have been all about how everything's opening up, and yet here in Ottawa we're experiencing our 7th wave, so a bit of a contradiction there.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We're back with Walter Robinson, Maria McRae, Municipal Monday. 28 days to go until voting day in the municipal election. Maria, what sort of impact do you think a registered third party like Horizon Ottawa is having on this campaign?
No, it's really hard to say. For example, I know someone who's working in that organization used to work for Catherine McKenney. So is the impact that they get to help with the message of that candidate? For example, I think the good thing about the registration of these third-party organizations is the transparency it brings. There have been times in the past where brochures would show up at a door and nobody would know who dropped them, and they were sometimes nasty towards a challenger or an incumbent. So again, it's hard to say. I think we'll know more at the end of this campaign, because last election in Ottawa, we didn't have any registered third-party campaigns that actually did anything. I think there was one that may have been associated with a golf course, but nothing happened with that.
Okay. What do you think? Impact. Horizon Ottawa, is it having an impact? Walter?
It's having an impact. It's having an impact on the debate.
You mean the tone of the debate, do you mean? Or?
The tone of the debate, and I think it's actually sharpened, and I'm on the outside, I'm not involved in anybody's campaign. I've noticed candidate Sutcliffe's remarks have become much more pointed against Catherine McKenney and their campaign. They're anti-car. They're not very balanced. And what I like the idea of visibility and transparency to outside people whose names are not on the ballot, and whether that would be unions or developers. If they're going to put out a thing, make sure you stand by what you're saying. Same thing with Horizon Ottawa. We'll have to wait and see. What I'm seeing right now is I'm just noticing a conversation I had this weekend. People are just now getting engaged on some of the issues. Like, we have a range of promises out there. What I don't like is when these third-party candidates, third-party organizations will label somebody as progressive. Progressive is a word that has been appropriated, because what does that mean by definition? The other candidates are regressive.
Right.
So the language that they use I find very intellectually dishonest.
Okay. Can it have an impact with a $25,000 spending limit?
Not really.
Not really? No.
I don't think so. In the broader context, in terms of you only have 30 years. Even in a tough mayor's race, I'm now going to say there's less than 50% of eligible voters who will be voting in the mayoral contest in and of itself.
Yeah.
Unless they really sharpen the agenda, or there's a bunch of stuff that is digitally it's happening, that is social media, that is not being reported, not being tracked, and how that works. Again, to Maria's point, we'll have to wait and see after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah, and to answer that question also, Rob, I agree with Walter. $25,000 to do that. If you look at the footprint of Ottawa being so large, if you had to get your message across from Orleans to Carp, let's say, it would be difficult. But yeah, I think that one thing I miss is the one-on-one reporting that the media used to do sometimes with candidates at all levels, whether it was mayoralty or councillor, and put people on the spot to answer questions and to have that on the record afterwards. So I think that has to be part of the debate in the future. Okay. How do we get the word out there? And obviously through shows like yourself, it's definitely a way to bring more voices to the table, because a lot of people still listen to radio.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. As relevant as ever, Maria McRae. Don't you kid yourself. All right. I think a sleeper issue is this zoning issue, R1 zoning. I think this is going to be one to watch in the next term of council. R1 basically means one dwelling, right? One residence, right?
Sure. Certainly, I think a bit of a Trojan horse in a way for people not paying attention.
Okay.
So with the R1, they call that exclusionary zoning. So on your property, it's one residential unit for usually one family. Sometimes multiple generations can live in one unit.
Right.
I think it's scary to imagine if we did all of Ottawa R1. And I say scary because that would mean is your neighbor could say, okay, I'm ripping my house down. And because we've got rid of R1, I can now put a 3-story up whenever I feel like it.
Right.
So I think it has to be done with tremendous discussion if it is done. I agree with the position of Mark Sutcliffe, and it sort of aligns a little bit with the Real Estate Association, where they talk about this may be appropriate to do in areas where there already is intensification and you can do more, but it has to be in your public transit if they do it.
Okay.
But I couldn't imagine, how would you make a place more affordable if you ripped a mansion down in Rockcliffe and put up a 3-story complex there? Like that, to me,
They'd never let you. No, but could you get rid of R1 altogether?
I don't think they should get rid of R1 altogether.
No?
Maybe in some places they don't have it anymore and it's R2, R3, which means a developer could come in with no public meeting, no democratic process, and they could say, okay, we're ripping down your single dwelling in Carleton Heights and we're going to put up a townhouse, and we're not going through any of the transparent process that there is now, but it might be okay in other parts of the city. So I think that council has to have the debate. I know the zoning bylaw will come up and it'll be passed sometime in 2025. But you definitely have to have transparency, and residents better pay attention to this.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing. Yeah. Well, it's horrible because some people come
It's
back
totally going to remake how the city looks, how so many neighborhoods look, depending on what happens with this designation of zoning. Walter, what do you think, Walter?
Well, to Maria's point, the last one is the most important in terms of your community design plans and consultation around what the future of your community looks like. I moved back into Old Ottawa East, and I chatted with the neighbors. I'm in what they would call an infill project, if you want to call it that, where they had a very corner lot with a small house. They put 2-3-story homes up there. It's a duplex. Some people are okay with it. And that's kind of smart growth, low-level intensification. But the people who've lived there for 30 or 40 years, who have often voted for left-of-center councillors driving smart growth, don't like it when it happens in their own backyard, right? So it's YIMBYism versus NIMBYism. And so, yeah, people really need to pay attention to this. And I know our friend Mr. Cullen from last week and the Federation of Citizens Associations, many candidates, and I think all of them across the board, and the 3 main candidates, have been very critical of this official planning process and some of what you call these dangling participles or these loose ends of it that can really upset the design, flavor, and look of communities.
Okay. Good to talk to both of you this week. When we all gather next week, there'll only be 3 weeks left to go. Can you imagine that? It'll be right down to crunch time. Thank you so much. We'll speak soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Walter Robinson, who will be joining us from some sunny destination next week by the sounds of things. Enjoy that trip, Walter. He used to be Chief of Staff to Ottawa Mayor Larry O'Brien. He used to be with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation as well. Maria McRae used to represent River Ward as a city councillor. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
We're in infinity war.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired, and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m., it's the Rtv Quiz. Giovanni Petiti hosts a weekly trivia competition that lets you play from the comfort of your couch. Play along at home and challenge your friends. And don't forget to follow along on social media. Let us know who's top of trivia, and you can find yourself featured on a future episode.
Are you kidding me, folks?
The Rtv Quiz, Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. on Rogers TV or at rogerstv.com/RTV Quiz.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Monday, September 26th. Good morning, I'm Danielle Bain. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, mostly cloudy skies and 17 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. The federal government has announced that Canada's remaining COVID-19 border restrictions, including mandatory vaccines, testing, and quarantine for international travelers, will end on Friday. People traveling by air or rail will no longer need to wear masks or undergo health checks as of October 1st. The use of the ArriveCan app will also no longer be mandatory as of Saturday, but federal officials say travelers can use the app to submit customs and immigration declarations before they arrive at certain Canadian airports. All adults in Ontario can now book an appointment to receive an Omicron-targeted COVID-19 vaccine. The province has announced that the bivalent vaccine is available to all residents 18 or over as of today. Health Minister Sylvia Jones says getting a booster dose is especially important with the start of the fall and winter respiratory illness season. The Minister of Health recommends a 6-month wait between booster doses. And residents of Atlantic Canada and eastern Quebec are starting their cleanup efforts after the region was rocked by Hurricane Fiona, the strongest storm to ever hit the East Coast. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces are being deployed to help with recovery efforts, with about 100 troops apiece were either in place or en route to Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and PEI to provide assistance with the cleanup effort. Crews from across eastern North America are heading to Atlantic Canada to help, including Hydro Ottawa crews. The federal government says they will be matching donations to the Canadian Red Cross. City News Time, 11:32. I'm Danielle Bain. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 1011 FM
and 1310 AM.
Any moment now, we expect the Prime Minister to have a news conference and update Canadians on the storm recovery efforts after Fiona slammed into Atlantic Canada. In advance of that, it is we're watching what's happening on the markets as well. Markets were brutal all last week, financial markets, and mixed markets right now. The big news story has been what's been going on with the pound. The British pound really took a tumble in the early hours this morning and hit an all-time low versus the U.S. dollar of 103 U.S. It has recovered somewhat since then. But this has been an ongoing story, the strength of the American dollar versus all other currencies. For example, you have euro, 96.32 U.S., and our own dollar is barely hanging on to 73 cents U.S., and it's down again today, down by another 46 basis points and down about 9% or so in the last 6 months because you have a flight to safety. There's a lot of fear in the market right now, so a lot of money is going into the U.S. dollar. We're going to get into all of this. Peter Fraser is going to join us for Money Monday coming up as well. We have the Dow Jones Industrial Average currently down triple digits again. But remember, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at 29,000. It surrendered 30,000 last week. It's down about 186 points, so a loss of less than 1%, 0.7 of 1%. In addition to that, we have the S&P 500 down, and the NASDAQ is pretty much flat on the day. It is nice when you look at the oil price, mind you, it's U.S. dollars, it's West Texas oil, to see a 7, as in $79 a barrel. 79.13, it is higher on the day. And let me see, what else do we have here? Oh, the Toronto Stock Exchange down just slightly this morning, but down nonetheless. It's down about 0.1%, 18,450 the last trade. Bitcoins, not to the moon, but above 19,000 again. 19,053, that's U.S. dollars. And Shopify hit a 52-week low last week and is actually down in the last 5 days, 9%. Shopify is up slightly on the day. The Ottawa technology company, 39.72 Canadian on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So keeping an eye on everything that's going on. And again, it's a Monday, and we'll get into all of these issues when we're joined by Peter Fraser, certified financial manager and portfolio manager as well when he joins us. 11:36 right now. David Smith is back from fishing.
Yeah, he is.
Whistler. You ever been out there before?
First time to the beautiful province of BC.
And how did that go? Did you have a good time? Or?
I had just the most wonderful time. I went in with high expectations and still they were exceeded.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you like about it?
Well, it's just remarkably beautiful. Just the sheer natural beauty of it, to look around and just see the wealth of natural resources that the province has. It's just it's
How was your weather?
Well, that's the other thing, is usually this time of year in BC, it looks like it does today in Ottawa.
Just rain.
I lucked out and we got a week where we had 4 days with like 0% chance of rain. Not one cloud in the sky as far as you could see. So that was just a cherry on top.
Okay. You flew out there, obviously.
I did.
So you went Ottawa to where?
Ottawa to Vancouver.
Just direct Ottawa to Vancouver.
Flight. Yeah, I paid a little extra for that, but I didn't want to muck around with transitions and possible air. Like, I didn't want to go through Pearson. I knew that. So the flights were actually very smooth.
And you don't have to tell me, but what's a flight like that running these days?
Round trip. Now, I booked this months in advance, but round trip after taxes, it was about $800.
You know what? That's still not too bad.
I did the whole trip for less than $1,200.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you catch any fish?
I caught 2 salmon.
Yeah.
Early season salmon fishing, mind you, but 2 salmon. One of them would have been close to 15 pounds. That was a fish of a lifetime for me.
Okay.
Really caught it right in a rapid, just classic salmon fishing, knee deep in the ice cold glacier water. It was special.
Okay. Looks like the Prime Minister is ready to make his remarks. Let's join. This is live here in Ottawa.
Prime Minister Trudeau, Madame Anand, and also Madame Hutchins via Zoom. And then we will take 20 minutes. We'll have 20 minutes for questions. Monsieur Trudeau, allez-y.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone.
Zanand, Leblanc, Leboutillier, Hutchins, and Fraser. We're here to provide an update on what we are doing to support people and provincial governments in the wake of Hurricane Fiona. As you know, the storm has passed, but thousands of homes are still experiencing power outages, and the scale of the damage means that people are still facing a tough time. Many parts of Nova Scotia and PEI, as well as southwestern Newfoundland, continue to experience the effects and damage left by the winds and coastal flooding. On constate aussi les dégâts des inondations.
There's also damage, flooding, and strong winds in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, including at the Ile de la Madeleine and in eastern New Brunswick. There will be a lot of work ahead in the coming days and months to clean up and rebuild, but I know that Canadians will be there for each other as always.
My condolences to the loved ones of the woman who lost her life in Port aux Basques and to the loved ones of the person who passed away in Prince Edward Island. Canadians are thinking of you in these difficult times. Our thoughts are also with people who've lost homes or businesses, people who've been evacuated and aren't sure when they're going to be able to get home, people who are having difficulty accessing services and support due to road washouts and debris, and people with young kids who won't be going to school today. I want, of course, to thank first responders for their incredible work this weekend and the work they continue to do, as well as thanking Atlantic Canadians who, as always, are being good neighbors to one another, looking out for each other, because that's what Atlantic Canadians do. That's what all Canadians do. C'est traumatisant.
It's traumatizing to see your home destroyed or to have to be evacuated in an emergency. It's very hard. I can tell you everyone on the ground is working hard to help affected communities. Yesterday, again, we got together with the Emergency Incident Response Group. Ministers and other senior officials are working closely with their provincial counterparts and First Nations. I also spoke with the Mayor of Carleton, Port aux Basques, and the Regional Municipality of Cape Breton. I also, of course, spoke with our local MPs who are there on the ground with their constituents.
Approved requests for federal assistance from provinces. In Nova Scotia, the Canadian Armed Forces are available to clear road links and to restore electricity. On PEI, some smaller communities are isolated and tens of thousands remain without power. The Canadian Armed Forces have arrived to help remove debris from roadways and assist in the restoration of the power grid. In Newfoundland and Labrador, the federal government is helping by providing detailed aerial imagery and mapping of damages. We're also deploying military personnel to support local authorities on the ground, and naval vessels and aircraft are also on high readiness to assist if necessary. The one thing that's been consistent in my calls to premiers, mayors, and MPs is that Canadians are stepping up for each other and helping their communities get through this tough time. I will be visiting the affected regions as soon as possible this week, and I want all people in the Atlantic provinces and Eastern Quebec to know that we are here for you. Justement cet été.
In fact, this summer, I had the opportunity to travel through Atlantic Canada to speak with people and hear about the issues they care about, and especially I went to the Ile de la Madeleine a month ago. It's a beautiful place. The people who live there are very welcoming. They are always there for each other, and I know they're used to storms, but this one was on a different scale, and we will keep on being there to support them as we will support everyone in that area. I can tell you that we will keep on being there, not just in the days to come, but in the weeks, months, and if need be, in the years to come as well. As we announced on Saturday, those who want to help can go to the Canadian Red Cross website to make a donation, and our government is going to match donations made over the next 30 days.
Donate on the Canadian Red Cross website, and our government will match your donations over the next 30 days. I know Canadians are watching with consternation, either the images that they've seen or, like so many Canadians, having friends and family members in Atlantic Canada that we've been worried about. It's an opportunity to step up and give what we can to support people on the ground Like I said, the government will match those donations to the Red Cross. En terminant aujourd'hui,
in conclusion today, I'd like to talk about the situation in Iran. Unfortunately, Iran does not respect human rights, and that's nothing new.
The Iranian regime refused to be held accountable, but our government was and is relentless in the pursuit of justice for the families of the victims. We will stop at nothing to ensure that this regime is held to account and that we will support the families until justice is served. We've seen Iran disregarding human rights time and time again, and now we see it with the death of Mahsa Amini and the crackdown on protests. To the women in Iran who are protesting and to those who are supporting you, we stand with you. We join our voices, the voices of all Canadians, to the millions of people around the world demanding that the Iranian government listen to their people, end the repression of freedoms and rights, and let women and all Iranians live their lives and express themselves peacefully. Today, I'm announcing that we will implement sanctions on dozens of individuals and entities, including Iran's so-called morality police. This is in addition to some of the toughest measures of any country towards Iran. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce qu'on va...
Today, I am announcing that we are going to impose sanctions on dozens of individuals and organizations, including on the so-called morality police in Iran, to the women who are demonstrating, and to those who support them. We are there for you and with you.
Yeah, so that was the Prime Minister. There are several ministers there who will be speaking during this news conference. Our Parliamentary Bureau Chief, Cormac McSweeney, will bring us the very latest on this at noon and throughout the afternoon. Anita Anand is the Minister of Defense. You also have Dominic LeBlanc and other cabinet ministers, regional ministers there as well. So we'll be monitoring that, but we'll be right back with Money Mondays with Peter Fraser on The Rob Snow Show here on City News.
The houseless crisis, because it really is a crisis down here on Rideau Street. There is not enough shelters for men especially, and we need to be helping our most vulnerable.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
On Monday's Daytime Ottawa, the Ottawa Safety Council joins us on the show. We're going to be talking safety around school zones and the desperate need for crossing guards. It is a great way for you to be a part of your community and, of course, help get our kids back to school safe. Also going to be talking about the beautiful Women's Expo. It is back in town. We'll give you all the details on that. And Jeanette Ewan will join us. She's going to give us her top must-haves for fall.
I think our schools need better resources. Teachers need to be paid better. I think that there should be programs for Black people that prioritize our needs. And I think the curriculum needs to be adjusted to reflect all peoples, not just one kind of person. And they should also invest a lot of money in programs, after-school programs that are not like relevant in 1990, but are relevant today.
$20. Hi, I'm Maggie. Come into my kitchen. When you're using salt in a recipe, check for saltiness. Not all salts are equal. A fine grain salt is a lot more salty than a large grain salt because that takes longer to get into the food. Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20.
Enjoy the fresh outdoors. Play an important role in the lives of school-age children. Get paid to make a difference in your community. Become a crossing guard. We are currently recruiting crossing guards for the school year. We offer a competitive wage with various perks and opportunities for bonuses. Join the Ottawa Safety Council in keeping kids safe in the nation's capital. Find out more at crossing-guard.ca.
Hi guys, my name is Vi and I'm a part of Encore Ottawa 3. My set at the Meridian Theatre is coming out this week and I hope you tune in.
It's been 2 years later still.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by local authors for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
Community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
And it's great to welcome back Peter Fraser for Money Monday. Peter is certified financial planner and he is now with Credential, QTrade Securities here in Ottawa. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Now, I've got terrible news, Peter.
Okay.
I took my vast portfolio and I put it all into British pounds.
You did, eh?
No. Just a little dark humor for a bear market, Peter. So, look, you know, we've talked a lot as you've joined us throughout 2022 about how important it is that people have a good advisor-client relationship, and we're going to get into that a little bit more this morning, and that involves cost and fee disclosure. So why don't you pick it up from there, Peter?
Well, yeah, I think an important practice that, thank you for that, Rob, but listeners should be looking for in a healthy advisor-client relationship some conversation around cost and fee disclosure. And there's a little bit of background to this, that in 2020, the Investment Funds Institute of Canada pointed out not a lot of progress in Canadians' ability to understand the fees they pay when they take a look at their annual statement. So that's the first salvo.
Okay.
In 2021, the Mutual Fund Dealers Association tried their hand at it, and in their client survey, they found that fewer than 1 in 5 investors could identify which types of costs were included in their fee summaries. So clients are deeply concerned about statements that contain jargon and technical language that's they're saying is higher than they can comprehend.
Okay.
So just to add to the help, there's something else on the way in Canada called PCR, and that's called Total Cost Reporting, slated for 2024. And that's going to take another stab at this cost disclosure puzzle, but it's intended to kind of enhance and harmonize disclosure, but they've joined hands with a global sort of initiative towards increased fee transparency. And I just say all that to say that, you know, the intent here is to help clients make informed decisions, but I wanted to share maybe 3 simple, or at least 3 observations that I've picked up over 3 decades about this very practice. So if I may,
sure.
Roll.
Yeah.
The first one I just say is ask. And if investors aren't already having transparent fee discussions with their advisors about all of the costs involved in their work together, I think there's no better time to start that conversation than right now. An advisor's compensation from working with clients can be in the hundreds or in the thousands of dollars on an annual basis. So, you know, if people don't understand the information on their statements, and clearly these studies make it abundantly clear that they don't, then I think a deep and a good conversation between advisor and client is actually the best way to get that information.
Okay, and part 2?
Yeah, I think that, once that full fee and cost picture conversation is going on, then it should go hand in hand with getting an idea of the kinds of value that you're going to receive for that price.
Right.
And having that piece of the puzzle, I think, is very important. And there's even no reason why you shouldn't get it in writing. So a few examples here would be, now you know what the costs involved on a dollar basis are by asking and by having had that disclosed to you. But you can also match that up with whether or not other services like financial planning, regular updates, estate planning, income tax planning, preparation, maybe all of these are part of that advisor's value proposition, and it helps fit the price paid together with the services provided.
And don't be afraid to ask for it, right?
Big time.
Yeah.
And an advisor's only value doesn't just lie in their ability to generate returns, but you want to have it clearly spelled out, the how and the how much, and obviously the what's in it for me in exchange for those fees.
Okay.
So
how do you do it?
Well, I think I'm a fan of a disclosure and a letter of engagement. And in both of those documents, clients know pretty clearly where the fees are charged, how much they're charged, and what they can expect in exchange for that. So, I often say an important best practice as a client is actually to take the time you need to discuss the fees and your advisor's compensation. And, genuine two-way transparency is the best tool for having that trust-building exercise take place in a way that helps people get their goals established, develop their plans, keep those plans on track. And it's really a foundational component to a healthy relationship.
Yeah. What's your experience in how clients view paying fees?
Well, I haven't actually met, this may sound naive, but I'll just make a general statement, but I haven't met the investor or the client who's averse to paying reasonable fees.
Okay.
In many cases, clients expect that I'll be compensated fairly for the work that we're going to do together and for the services that I'm going to provide. I also see a high level of appreciation for taking time to make sure that the fees and the charges are understood, the compensation and the value. I mean, obviously, nobody likes to be in the dark. Nobody likes to be surprised.
Right.
And people are crying out in these surveys saying they want to easily understand what their fees are and what they'll be getting for them.
Yeah. And what do you find are the keys to making sure that, for example, your clients understand what you're telling them? Because as you said to begin our segment, what frustrates them most is the technical jargon and complicated wording, these kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, to be respectful, I know the objective of regulators is to be of help.
Right.
I think when you get down on the ground, if you look at the tax code in Canada, it's thousands and thousands of pages long. I mean, the reality is I don't think there is a substitution for a transparent and healthy conversation in as much detail as possible. And if you don't feel like you've been given that information, in a verbal exchange and regularly, I think that fee conversation needs to take place regularly in an ongoing relationship and personally between the advisor and the client, so that you're not in the dark and you do understand, and you're not left having to rely on some of these complicated statements that really haven't gone very far in helping things along.
Okay. So Peter's our certified financial planner that's with us every Monday for Money Mondays. If people, and he's now with Credential QTrade Securities in Ottawa, investment advisor there. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Well, we've set up Money Mondays at alterna.ca, actually with the wealth management group at Alterna. And as you point out, Credential is our securities dealer. But if you want to know what to look for in that fee conversation, you can get a copy of those important points at Money Mondays at alterna.ca, Rob.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Great stuff this week, as always, and that's Money Mondays. And that's the Rob Snow Show. Sam LaPrade getting ready for the Sam LaPrade Show right after the noon news on City News.
The Rob Jeff Snow Show.
Weekdays at 9 on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley.